Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, Sunix, and with me today, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame in his game because he's always the same.
That's me.
That's right, Grumpy. That is you. Thank you, everybody, coming out and listening to this show. As always, got to go over some housekeeping first. If you guys enjoy the content over here, and even if you don't, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, comment, so we can juice up that algorithm and get this show out to as many people as possible. Islanders fans, non-Islanders fans, just everyone. We want it to go out to everybody. Want everybody watching. Yeah, I think that's all the housekeeping we have. Oh, we shoot to have this show every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Running a little late, Grumpy. Why are we running late?
Because you're late as usual.
No. There's a specific reason we're running late.
Because you were late.
You know why?
Because I got to hold your hand whenever you do anything.
No. Grumpy is obsessed with this new show or a new season of a show called Love on the Spectrum. Isn't that right, Grumpy?
Not true.
What were you watching then?
I was babysitting you to get everything.
Oh, there we go. He's got to lie. Don't worry. It's Love on the Spectrum, Grumpy. Everyone knows.
Why am I seeing something that says stream this to your audience? Why am I seeing that at the top of the thing? I'm seeing something that says stream this to your audience.
I have no idea.
Isles Fire Wah. Stream this to your audience. Are we streaming this? Are we live streaming this?
It's live streamed, Grumpy.
Okay.
It's live streamed. Yeah. So yeah, Isles Fire Wah. Thoughts, Grumpy?
Is that where we want to start with that, or we want to talk? I mean, I don't care.
I figure we'll start with that, and then we'll get into the less than hopeful playoff hopes, postseason hopes that we still have remaining.
Okay. They fired Patrick Waugh. Was
Correct.
Patrick Waugh the problem with this team? Nope. Is Peter DeBoer a better coach than Patrick Waugh? Yeah. The Islanders have fallen out of a playoff spot down the stretch. They've lost 4 games in a row. And I will say that with the exception of a couple of games where they were blown out, you can't say there wasn't effort there. They played Carolina. Carolina owns them, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. They're not beating Carolina ever. And if that's the game you fire them on, I mean, they lost to the Flyers. Flyers came out like they wanted to play in the first period. This is not news for the Islanders. It was the same thing under Barry Trotz, under Lane Lambert. It's just been the same thing historically for this Islanders team. I'm just baffled by the timing of the whole thing. Do they think that Peter DeBoer is going to turn this team around and have them make a playoff spot? Odds are probably against it. I
It's
think
not.
Peter DeBoer is okay as a head coach. He's been successful, but it's with talented teams, really talented teams. He's also had issues with goaltenders, like he did with Ottinger last year in Dallas, which got him fired. Um, I I'm just baffled. I just think Darce kind of used this as a scapegoat for his absolutely miserable first year as general manager. He's a terrible general manager. Terrible.
Yeah, I guess the trade deadline acquisitions were atrocious. Braden Shen has been an awful acquisition.
Horrible.
You see St. Louis, since he left, is producing, and the Islanders are imploding, essentially, since he's joined.
I'm not going to say he's the reason why the Islanders are performing poorly, but there is something to be said for St. Louis taking off and having the best record in the league since he was traded.
Yep.
I don't think he's had it. When I say negative impact, I don't think that he has a cancerous effect on the Islanders dressing room at this time. I don't feel that. He just can't play anymore.
And that's the impact that I'm talking about that's negative, is he's taking ice time from somebody else who's probably more deserving.
I'm just, like I said, for me, it's a baffling move. This team is so far away organizationally of being a model franchise. I don't know where you go from here, honestly. Was Waugh a great coach? Once again, no. DeBoer's better than he is, probably. That's not the problem with the team, though.
Yeah.
I don't expect this team to all of a sudden turn around in a dime and win 4 straight and somehow make the playoffs. I just don't expect that.
It's not happening.
Well, it could happen, right?
It's not happening.
Okay, they're not out of a playoff spot yet, but it's an uphill battle. They have a number of teams ahead of them. I think their only path to making the playoffs now is to come in third in the Metro, which means that you're going to have to pass both Columbus and Philadelphia.
Yep.
Ottawa has 92 points. The Ottawa game on Saturday I don't think the Islanders can afford to lose a game. Let me just put it to you that way.
If they lose that game, their season's over. If they lose that game, their season's over.
Not mathematically, but for all intents and purposes.
Yes.
Islanders schedule the last 4 games. Everybody's lined up now in games played. 78 games. It's 4 games to the playoffs. Got to win. Win and get in.
And yep, they got the Toronto Maple Leafs, which should be a win.
Should be a win.
Terrible. The Senators game, that's their biggest game of the year.
Those are tough.
Very,
games.
Very tough.
Afternoon games.
Another tough game.
Afternoon games for the Islanders are difficult. Montreal is right there fighting with Buffalo for second position.
Yep.
And even an outside shot at first place in the Atlantic Division, very outside shot. And then you got the Hurricanes, the last game of the year. If the Hurricanes have something to play for, the Islanders have 0 shot of beating them. If they've already clinched best record in the Metro Conference and best record in the Eastern Conference, in the Metro Division, they already had that locked up. But if they are looking for something to lock up the best record in the Eastern Conference, the Islanders will lose that game for certain. I think that's maybe the worst game I've seen the Islanders play. I know the score was 4-3, but I thought that, as usual, Carolina's goaltending was not great. But the whole game was in the Islanders' zone. That game wasn't close.
Yep.
And I said last week on last week's show, if the Islanders lose the next 2, there's no way they're making playoffs. But the whole thing is all these other teams are scuffling and losing games they should win. Columbus won last night. They were 6-game losing streak. How do you have a 6-game losing streak this time of year? I mean, they did win last night in overtime over Detroit. That hurt the Islanders too because Detroit gets a loser point. Right now, the Islanders are in 11th place in the conference. I don't see them catching Ottawa for wild card. It has to be that Philadelphia either falls apart, and we can compare schedules. Philadelphia falls apart down the stretch. And Columbus continues to sputter. The Islanders have the edge on both teams when it comes to head to the tiebreaker.
Yes.
They have the head and tiebreaker, so that's a good thing. But they're 3 points behind Ottawa. They're not catching Ottawa.
No.
All right, I think that's done. If Ottawa beats us on Saturday, it's really done. But like I said, a 3-point lead, and Ottawa has a tiebreaker on the Islanders. Detroit, terrible. The Flyers, again, we have the edge and tiebreaker on the Flyers. They have a 3-point advantage. I think Flyers' schedule is pretty tough down the stretch. But again, who are they playing at what period, what time of the other teams have anything to play for? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I don't think usually, you get that new coach bump.
It's not going to make it.
I don't think it's enough. I don't think there's enough runway for it to really benefit the Islanders this year. I just don't.
And then we got this is the Flyers' remaining schedule left. So they have Detroit.
Big game. Big
Yep.
game. They have to beat Detroit tomorrow. Cannot lose to Detroit tomorrow.
Correct. Winnipeg, who I think they have it'll be a close game, but I think they got a good shot to beat Winnipeg.
Winnipeg has started. Winnipeg is playing for something. I know they're points out of the playoff spot, but they've been really good the last 2 or 3 weeks. That's going to be a tough game for them. They have to beat Detroit. They can't lose to Detroit. They need 5 points. In essence, five points and the Islanders have to win out. I mean, it's going to be tough. They have the Hurricanes on Monday, and do the Hurricanes have anything to play for? I mean, it's the same thing when they play the Islanders last game of the year. If they have something to play for, Hurricanes are going to beat the Flyers.
I think they will when they play the Flyers, but I think if they beat the Flyers in that game, they'll solidify home ice advantage. They'll be the number 1 team in the East, and I think then they will, rest goaltender. They'll play a backup goalie, and they'll rest a couple of guys when they play.
Both their goaltenders are backups. It doesn't matter.
I'm just saying. I'm just letting you know what my thoughts are.
I don't think they're gonna sit anybody. I mean, how many guys can you sit anyway?
If they have it locked up,
how many guys can you sit? It's not like you got 80 guys on your roster.
I don't know, 3, 4 guys.
3 or 4 guys. Okay. Well, if you watch the Islanders or the Hurricanes, the Islanders could have played 10 men short and still beat them the last week. They were just so much better. And then the last game of the year, again, the Flyers at home against the Canadians. The Canadians have whatever spot they are locked up. Yep. If so, they have nothing to play for. I guess they could hypothetically be resting players.
Very true.
But every game means something to the Flyers. It's better to have the points in the bank than to be the team chasing. I will say that.
Correct.
And let's
if
pop
the
up the
Islanders do not beat Ottawa, their season's done with.
Well, I don't think they can afford to lose any games down the stretch.
I know. I'm just saying if they don't beat Ottawa, I wholeheartedly believe they're going to beat Montreal. I can't see them as losing to the Canadiens, or not Montreal. Sorry, Toronto. I can't see them losing to Toronto. I just can't.
Can you pull the Islanders schedule up?
Yes.
Okay. Again, Maple Leafs.
That's got to be a win.
Should be a win. You'll lose tomorrow, you're done.
Well, yeah. I can't see them as losing tomorrow.
Senators is the big one, and then second half of a back-to-back. The Canadians are also playing, I believe, the second half of a back-to-back. We can look at their schedule next. And then the Canes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're outmatched against the Canadians, probably outmatched against the Senators, and definitely outmatched when it comes to the Hurricanes. I just think it's going to be really, really difficult for them to make playoffs. That's why I'm just doubtful of that. What does that move mean? Is it because, we got rid of the coach because we wanted to get a jump on other teams? He was out there for any team to pick up. Any team could have picked him up. He's been without a job all year.
Yep.
I mean, any team could have hired him. And I'm not saying he's a crappy head coach. I don't think he is. I think he's better than Patrick Waugh. What's the? I'm just baffled.
Yeah,
The
and then
job
here I
that
just want
Darsh
to
has
look this up
done.
real quick. Mario Vargas says since DeBoer was fired last year, 7 teams fired their head coaches, and none of them thought about hiring DeBoer.
Yeah, I've talked about on this show numerous times. I don't think they're not winning the Stanley Cup with him.
No.
Is he better than Patrick Waugh? Yeah. That's not the problem. The problem is the general manager is the problem. He's a really poor general manager.
They could have Herb
That's
Brooks
the
come
Islanders'
to
issue.
coach the team, but the talent is not there to win a cup. It don't matter who
Right.
they have coaching. They're not winning.
Now I think he's gotten to the Stanley Cup finals, or at least the conference finals a few times. I think he got to the finals, Stanley Cup finals with San Jose. San Jose was loaded, and they wound up losing to Pittsburgh. He's always had me with Vegas. I mean, they were loaded too, but he's playing with a team with a lot of talent. That's not the case with the Islanders. I just don't understand. I know that there's I know we have some things on the press conference from Darsh, which just kind of put me over the edge. And I'd like to listen to some of that or read some of that and comment on that. I know those things are bookmarked for you to pop up there, X.
Yeah, give me a second to find it, okay?
Yeah, because it's important. I don't think he knows what he's doing. That's the biggest thing. I think he's so reactive in everything he does that it's just I just shake my head. As an Islander fan, I shake my head. I'm like, you're never winning with this guy's GM ever. They're never going to win with him. That's the big issue. And you listen to him talk. Well, he made a decision the night before on Saturday night to get rid of him. I'm like, what? What? You're going to try to tell me that you didn't consider? Well, you knew he had faith in him, right? Had to have faith in Patrick Waugh at the deadline. Why? Because he started trading for aging assets for a playoff push. So he obviously believed in the head coach then. Was that a month ago? And all of a sudden now he doesn't believe in him. He fires him. And like I said, with the exception of a couple of games, the Islanders were outworking a lot of teams. They're just not talented enough to win. So Schaefer slowed down a little bit. Horvat, less impactful. The acquisitions have been bad. Every single one has been terrible. I mean, do you have any of those, X? Anything?
Yeah, I'm looking. It seems like it's all just stuff about Sorokin shutouts and Matthew Schaefer stats. So
Okay, he had it. He bookmarked them for you. He bookmarked them for you on the Twitter page.
I'm not seeing it.
Okay, put up.
Here, we'll scroll through it. Here, let's scroll through it together. You tell me where it's at.
Just put up one at a time, dude.
So since our last show, which was right here, we have this.
Okay, let's read this.
That's not from an interview.
Let's read this. Darsh 6 weeks ago, in a playoff spot, 2 first-rounders, a third, tons of cap space in 26-27. Darsh now out of the playoffs, 1 first, no third, no cap space because $17 million on guys 33 and older. If they miss the playoffs, he needs to be dragged through concrete naked by a Zamboni outside of UBS. Again, this was supposed to be a season, a transition season. That's what it was supposed to be. Because of Sorokin and Schaefer, those 2 guys are directly responsible for the Islanders being better than anyone thought. No one going into the season thought the Islanders were going to be in contention for a playoff spot, unless you're the most optimistic of Islander fans. But most people did not believe that was even an option. I certainly didn't. Those 2 players got the Islanders in playoff position. So, and it's like, and Darsh even said in his press conference, he's like, well, we were doing a lot of things earlier in the year where, it was like almost smoke and mirrors how they were winning games. Do you invest in smoke and mirrors by trading for aged veterans. A general manager's job, if you think that your team has been lucky all year winning games, which is basically what he's saying, catching a lot of breaks, when you see that your team is winning games like that, you need to look at it and say, well, you know what? That is absolutely not the reason. That's not the type of team to invest in. We said that all year. If clowns like me can make that determination, how come he can't as a general manager? That's my question. How is he unable to see through that? All year we've been saying that. Guess what? Winning 10 straight games or 11 straight games in overtime is not sustainable. It just isn't. How is it possible that he didn't see that? And why is he investing in that group of players?
Because he's in over his head and he doesn't know what he's doing. He felt, this is my first year as a GM. I need to make some form of move in my first year as a GM. Otherwise, I'll be looked at as not doing anything.
Well, guess what?
Sometimes not doing something is a positive.
If you were going to invest, and it seemed like he was hell-bent on pissing away draft capital, if you were hell-bent on that, you don't go after somebody who's 34 years old and finished as a player. Finished.
Agreed.
Braden Shen, finished as a player. And 2 more years where you're stuck with his salary. You don't trade for an Andre Palat who looks like he's a traffic cone out there, who's scored on his first shift for the Islanders and hasn't scored since. You don't trade for Carson Soucy because he just sucks. And he's always sucked.
Yep.
Those are not guys you invest in. Those are not guys who put you over the top. This is not Tampa Bay. I've said before, he did absolutely nothing in Tampa Bay. He had no responsibilities at all in Tampa Bay except to get coffee for the real GM. That was his job. He had no job there. He was a loser. You know how you know he was a loser? You were Tampa Bay assistant general manager for 7 years and you never got a sniff for a job. That means you suck. And everybody else saw through you. Everybody except the Islanders ownership group who fell in love with this guy. Well, he loves being on the camera. He loves smiling. He's an imbecile. He's terrible.
He did everything he possibly could to try and get this team to the playoffs, or what he thought would get this team to the playoffs, and it didn't work out.
I challenge anyone to tell me a worst first year as a general manager that in any other NHL season. I can't think of one who's been that bad. I can't. X, what do you got up here on the screen?
This is just saying a 35 percentage point swing in playoff chances for the Isles tonight. Last chance of the Flyers. So during the last couple of games, there was a 35 percentage point swing.
So what are the percentages, X? Run them down.
Yes, we have to make the playoffs. If they beat the Islanders in regulation, it was 26.5%. And then if they beat the Flyers in regulation, the Islanders had the 75.3% chance. Obviously, that didn't happen. And now the Flyers are the team that's going to make the playoffs in the postseason, and the Islanders are not.
Okay, X, this is what I want you to do. As soon as we get done with this, what's the Flyers percentage now?
Oh, I don't know what their current percentage is. I can look it up.
Yeah, this is old, right? We don't want to look at something from I don't care about last week.
Oh, okay.
And all you need to do is go to Twitter and click on bookmarks, and it's all there.
Is this bookmarks?
This thing that says bookmarks.
I see chat. I see notifications. I see explore. I see home. I don't see something that says bookmarks. Remember, I don't use Twitter.
Why are you not using Twitter?
Oh, here, bookmarks. Okay. Why don't I use Twitter? Because I don't use Twitter. I don't use it. It's not one of the forms of social media I use.
Okay. Well, this is what we need to look at right here. This is the stuff we're talking about.
This is the April 6th stuff. So I'll scroll down to the bottom. Okay, here we'll start April 6th, which was yesterday.
Okay, go further back.
You just said you didn't want to look at any old news.
Dude, I'm talking about for the playoff percentages.
Okay, well, I don't think we want to go back to April 3rd or April 17th of 2025.
I want to go when they were fired. Here it is right here. Okay. Andrew Gross says Matthew Darsh, his effusive praise of Patrick Waugh, said the ex-coach took news as a true professional, said there were zero issues in the room. Considers Waugh a close friend for life now, but says he believes the team has a better chance the last 4 games with DeBoer. He really said that. It's just stupid. That's just stupid, right? Let's be honest, it's dumb. You think Patrick Waugh thinks he's a friend for life?
No.
I fired him with 4 years ago. I mean, he's still going to get paid another 2 years.
He let him go. He's not. Why would he be his
There's
friend?
zero issues in the room. Then what was the problem? What's the problem?
The problem is he did nothing during the trade deadline, or actually, he put the team in a negative direction during the trade deadline, and he's using him as a scapegoat. That's what it is.
Andrew Goose adds, Matthew Darr said, I just felt it was time to move the group forward. It was time to make a change. You got 4 games left in the season. You got 4 games left. You're not changing anything. It was a tough thing to do yesterday, but sometimes you have to make those decisions. Then Matthew Darr said Peter Bohr was the only coach he spoke to. Said things came together quickly on Sunday morning when his decision to move on from Waugh was made. So it was like an instantaneous deal, and you only interviewed 1 head coach? Does that sound like something a sound general manager would do?
Does it? Never get a second opinion. Never see what else is out there. Any other options? Yeah, it sounds like it.
I don't think he knows. Like I said, I've said it before. He doesn't even know what he doesn't know. That's how much he doesn't know. He's clueless. Stefan Rosner adds, this is very simple. Darce gets hired. Darce gives Waugh a chance. Well, this is the best they've played under Patrick Waugh this year, right? Pretty much. Team overachieves. Darce holds on to Waugh. Team starts to look really bad. Darce doesn't want to hold on to Waugh anymore. And before other teams make their offseason coaching change, he gets DeBoer. DeBoer's been out there all year. All year. 7 teams have fired their head coaches since he was let go. And he hasn't gotten a job.
They would have already picked him up by now if they wanted him.
There's nothing. And again, is he a better coach than Patrick Waugh? Yeah, I believe he is. Is he going to win your Stanley Cup? Absolutely not. I'm just baffled. Baffled. Stefan adds, obviously, Darsh plays a role in roster construction, and deadline moves didn't or don't look like they're going to get the job done. This is a proactive move. Darsh played a card he's had all season. Too late to save the season? Maybe.
It's another reactive move.
What does he mean Darsh plays a role in roster construction and deadline moves? He's the freaking general manager and director of hockey operations. He is the guy who makes the roster construction decisions. He is the guy who makes the deadline moves. He's the guy who makes all those moves. He's the hockey ops guy and the GM. He makes all the moves.
This was a reactionary move solely dependent on his appearance to the fan base. That's what it was. That's why he got rid of him. That's it.
It's a disaster.
You're fighting for a playoff spot and you're getting rid of your head coach.
If you're Matthew Schaefer, what are you thinking today?
When is my entry-level contract over and I become a free agent?
Well, he doesn't become a free agent until he's 25.
Okay.
He can be a UFA.
He's going to have a hell of a party at 25.
But do you think he wants to?
No. The answer is no. Remain here? No.
I'm looking at he's young, but his agent's probably seen stuff like this before.
Yeah. And saying, get out. Get out.
I mean, Rosner is kind of being a little disingenuous here when he's played a card he's had all season. Well, they were good all season. Patrick Waugh did a great job with the piss poor roster he had. Right?
Matt,
big all season.
Did a good job, and Sorokin did a good job. You notice since Sorokin started to cool off a little bit, they haven't performed well.
Well, because the team is terrible defensively. They have been all year.
But that's what I'm saying, though, is Sorokin single-handedly – okay, him and Matthew Schaefer have single-handedly both kept them in games and kept them winning games this year. Without them both performing at the level and quality that they've been performing this year, the team's starting to lose. Wow, shocker, crazy. Kind of like we've been saying that all year. It just is what it is.
I mean, I'm just like, for me, I'm just baffled at the timing.
I'm not.
4 games to go in the season, you're not baffled by the timing? 4
No,
games to
I'm
go in
not.
the season?
I'm not because because look at how the fan base has reacted now to his decisions, that he made during the trade deadline, how they're not panning out, how they're not working. The team's now not going to make the playoffs. He's trying to spin it as, hey, guess what? It's actually not my fault. It's because the coaching was poor.
Okay.
That's the reason why we're not playing well. That's the reason why we're not winning. It's because it's the coach's fault. So let's get rid of the coach and magically now, oh, don't worry, everything's going to change. Well, guess what? Newsflash, it's not. It's going to be the same thing next year.
I thought the Islanders most of the year showed a lot of hustle. They had a lot of puck luck. Like I said, you don't win 11 games in a row in overtime and, think that that's not some puck luck involved there. And
It
again,
is.
I'm just going to say it again. Darsh not being able to see through that is problematic for him as a general manager. That's his job.
I'm on the bandwagon of you now where he doesn't know what he's doing.
He doesn't know what he's doing. I told you that. Here's the thing. He manages his club like he's a fanboy. That's what he does. His job is to look 2, 3, 4 years in the future, not 3 weeks. That's not his job. His job is to think long term. He didn't do it. He doesn't know what he's doing. I don't know anyone who thinks he's done a good job this year.
Even fans from other teams are just hockey, hockey fans in general are coming out and saying that Darsh has done an absolute just awful job.
Terrible.
Awful job.
Terrible. It's a team that's going nowhere.
Correct.
And as an Islander fan, it's like, is it just time to give up for a while? Is a team
it's honestly a shame the fact that you have Matthew Schaefer and you're feeling like you need to give up.
Okay. Next year, what could the Islanders do to get better?
If Victor Eklund pans out, bring him up.
Look at how many guys the Islanders have locked in, have deals with term.
Oh, no, I know.
Because those guys are all going to play.
For big money.
And you just brought in 2 guys with term in Palat and Shen, who are not going anywhere. I mean, are they going to buy somebody out? Why would you trade for Anze Palat and eat all that salary for a 3rd-round pick, which you wind up pissing away on Carson Soucy?
Do you think he's getting money on the side on these deals that he's making?
No, stop.
That's what it feels like.
No, stop. Stop with the conspiracy nonsense. The Shen deal was the worst, though. If you wanted to move a 1st-round pick, look at how good Robert Thomas is playing since Braden Shen's been moved off that team.
Could have got him.
He's been poor all year. I think he's got something like 8 goals down the stretch. And we mentioned it. If you are dead set on trading trying to make the team better, which everyone wants a team to be better, you have to acquire somebody who's young, who you can build around. I don't care if you gave up a 1st-round pick and a 3rd-round pick and a goaltender for Robert Thomas. At least he's going to be with the team. Makes your team better. Braden Shen makes the team worse. He's old, slow. You could tell he's still his stick work is still good. He's still got pretty good stick along the boards. He just can't move anymore. He's finished.
These are the current percentages, by the way, Grumpy, for the Flyers to make the postseason, the Islanders to make the postseason.
67%, Islanders 12%. Here's the thing. Everything is out of the Islanders' hands now. That's the biggest issue. It's not in their hands. Last week, making the playoffs was all in their hands. They lose to the Flyers, a team that I just despise. They lost to them and got dominated. Then they play Carolina, and maybe the worst game I've ever seen the Islanders play in recent memory. And I'm like, where do you go from here? I'm going to take a dump on the schedule makers as well, though. How do you have a 4-day break the last 2 weeks of the regular season. The Islanders had a 3-day break 3 weeks ago, and they have a 4-day break now. I mean, it helps with Peter DeBoer coming in here and getting to know the players, but what's he going to do? Oh, well, he's going to have more defensive structure. Well, what does that mean for Matthew Schaefer? Are you going to have him lay back more and play defense more and not rush the puck up? So what do you want to do? Minimize the one guy who has skill? I don't know what his plan is, by the way. No idea. But if you have Matthew Schaefer thinking he's a lockdown defender, well, then your team has zero chance.
Because you're not going to be able to generate any offense.
But again, it's just mystifying to me that he couldn't see that this team, he mentioned how the team was not sustainable. The way they were winning was, not normal. And you invest in that?
Done something? Yeah, exactly. Why would you have not done something to change that and been like, hey, we need to look towards the future, as opposed to trying to double down on the thing that's not sustainable to win, that you even admitted is not sustainable to win? That doesn't mean, hey, let's try and pump this up more.
Ethan Sears comments, let's face it, we got away with some stuff during the year where our goaltending has been outstanding. I just felt at this moment that the last little bit here, we were sliding a bit. I mean, that's a quote from Matthew Darsh. That's a Matthew Darsh quote.
Yep.
Okay, dude, when you're saying we got away with some stuff during the year because the goaltending has been so good with Sorokin, everyone knew that. I'm Matthew Schaefer. Everyone knew it. Anyone with a brain, even Darsh knew it. Why does he invest in a team like that where, pretty much a shitty team that was saved by the goaltender and the defenseman? Because that's it, right?
Yeah.
You think the Islanders are going to be better next year? He re-signs J.G. Pajot. He'll be 34, 35, and 36 on his deal. His play has tailed off since he signed that extension. Braden Shen's been a bust since he got here. I don't care that he scored a couple of goals and has a couple of assists. He's on the ice for every goal against, it seems like, because he doesn't play any defense. Like I said, it's just mystifying to me that this guy even has a job at this point. I'm going to say it again. He'll never get another GM job. This is it for him. He's going to keep that Islander streak of failed general managers going. Since Bill Torrey, I don't even count Darcy Reguera, who's only there for a week. So I don't count him. Every single general manager who's gotten a job with the Islanders has never gotten another GM job when they got fired by the Islanders or quit. Neil Smith quit. Everybody else got fired. None of them ever got another job. You're talking about, what, how many years? 35, 40 years? 35 years? Milbury, Snow, Lamoriello, Darsh, Don Maloney. Come on. It starts, the head rots from the top. That's it. Head rots from the top.
Yeah, but I think that was it for the interviews there, Grumpy.
So disappointed. I'm just disappointed. It's like, where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? What can you do in the offseason?
No way they're going up. There's no way they're going up. Can't get those picks back now. Nope.
Now you got to count on your scouting staff being able to draft.
Yeah.
Again, this should have been a rebuild year. If you wanted to sit there and not make any moves or just move guys at the deadline who are on expiring deals, pick a bunch of firsts, seconds, parlay that into draft capital. You could have traded for Robert Thomas, but if you moved in Anders Lee and a J.G. Pajot, you could have had the first-round picks to pick up somebody like that, then still have extra selections going into this year's draft if you thought you had too many or not as many players that you loved. Trade down, get draft picks in next year's draft. That's how you rebuild a farm system. I don't think he's capable of doing that.
Drew says Hockey Polls on Twitter said that the Blues won the Shen trade by far. The margin was 91% in favor of the Blues.
I'd say 100%.
Would you say that
was Darsh's mother, his wife, his daughters, and his little buddies who was too busy when they're getting ass blasted by Chicago on a weekday? He's out there and eating a nice dinner with his buddies.
Would you say that that's possibly the worst trade in Islanders history?
No, it's not.
Top 5.
It's bad. It's bad.
Not top 5.
The Longo trade is the worst.
The Longo trade was really bad.
Worst by far. That's bad though.
Yeah. Do you want to get in some comments, Grumpy?
Sure.
All right.
Fleet Dream says, don't forget to smash that like button. Please do.
Yep. Please like and subscribe.
And yes, Grumpy and Sonex, how you guys doing? The title of the show should be Darsh, How to Be a Failure of a GM. He is. He's a failure.
Yeah. Awful.
I wanted to name the show, Did We Fire the Wrong Guy? And X said that was.
No. I said you can name it whatever you want. It's verbatim.
You didn't think that was a good title.
I thought it was a little long for a title. That's all.
Did we fire the wrong guy? Was it too long for a title?
I just thought so. Okay, fine. Next time, we'll just do whatever you say.
Okay.
That's fine.
That said. And when I mean fire the wrong guy, I'm not saying Patrick Waugh had to stay. DeBoer's a better coach than he is. But, and DeBoer once again says he wants to play team defense. Well, what is that going to do for us scoring goals? We don't score any now. How's it going to be? You got to hope Sorokin shuts everybody out? Just
every night, right?
It's so stupid. It's just dumb. Just dumb. And Darsh needs to be fired. He absolutely needs to be fired. I don't know how many years they're going to give him. He should be gone already. Rick Roma says, Frank Savali says the Islanders players told him Patrick Waugh talked a lot about the Stanley Cups he won, and it really wore on them. You want to know why it wore on them? Because they're freaking losers. Patrick Waugh's won Stanley Cups. You know what the Islanders have never won anything.
I thought that was funny. That was a funny joke.
Losers. That's what losers say. Oh, he was talking about all the Stanley Cups he won. What it took to win a Stanley Cup. For us, we just want to keep our job and live in the cul-de-sac together.
And look to vacation early.
There's so many guys who are losers on this team. There's only a handful that aren't. A handful. Everybody else has been affected with loseritis. It's been there for years. The country club atmosphere is alive and well.
Yep.
And you just re-sign them all back. Well, guess ready. If you do the same thing. What's that thing? If you do the same things, expect a different. That's the episode. What is it? The definition of
insanity is doing the same thing
over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, I hate to tell you. Gugner says the ending of the season stunk like a dirty armpit. Is next season already floating in the toilet? Yes, absolutely. Yes. The only way the Islanders can get better next year is if Matthew Schaefer has to take a huge jump and Sorokin's just as good. That's the only way.
I mean, how much more of a jump do you think Schaefer can take?
100 points.
I mean, yeah, we're just teetering on Wayne Gretzky status over here, like for defensemen.
Well, you're asking me, what else can they do for next year? He's got all these guys locked up.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I think we're.
Can he move anybody?
That's not happening.
Who's he going to move?
No, I know. I'm just saying. I can't see Matthew Schaefer putting up 100 points as a defenseman.
JP says, so I hear on the night that the Property Brothers fired Waugh, they partied all night with Darsh and a huge cake came out, and Lou Lamoriello burst out wearing nothing but the Pens, screaming.
Surprise! It was me the whole time.
Yeah. Well, supposedly, they had someone who knew Peter DeBoer from his time with the Devils. Well, who would that be, right? Lou Lamoriello. And again, I'm not ripping Peter DeBoer as a coach. I mean, I think he's okay, better than Patrick Waugh as an X's and O's guy. Doesn't matter. I don't care who. He only won when he had loaded teams, and he never won. He never won a cup. They managed to lose games they should win, and he has had issues with goaltenders before. He says he's going to play Sorokin the rest of the way, though. David Rittich might as well get splinters out of his butt by the end of the year.
I mean, would you not agree with that Sorokin should play the remainder of the season? Yeah. You have to.
You're running him into the ground, though, right? That's
okay. If you want any shot to make the postseason, you have to play him, though.
Okay. Well, you know what? What can I tell you? Drew says, okay, I've got about 40 minutes here until I have to go. Will there be a TJ and the Grumpy Old Man show on Sunday? There will not. That show is gone. Killed it.
Okay, thank you.
No, that show's gone. It wasn't economically feasible for us to do that show anymore. It wound up costing me a lot of money, so. Drew says, yeah, it looks like we're missing the playoffs, an absolute dagger for us fans and an absolute final nail in the coffin for the F- season of Darsh's GM tenure so far. That's very accurate. I'll go F double minus, actually. It's terrible. I can think of a worse, considering the position the Islanders were in, I can't think of a worse season, first season a general manager's ever had. I cannot think about it. I can't even think of it.
epic collapse right at the end.
It's not the collapse. It's the inability to read where your team is at. That's what his inability to realize, and he knew it. They weren't really good enough. They got some puck luck. And you wound up investing in guys over in their mid-30s. What are you doing? I was stunned by the Schenn trade.
He tried to do everything he possibly could to make the playoffs. That's what he did.
Rick Rock says, Roy, Wah gave us joy, compassion, and swagger. He couldn't give us a hungry and talented roster. That's on Darsh. I mean, Lou. The moves alone, including DeBoer, is all Lou. I don't think so. Here's the thing. Darsh is just shitty general manager. It's just that plain and simple. And that's right. We are not a hungry team. Some guys are. You can tell. You could one hand of guys who are hungry on the Islanders. One hand. No talent, though. Got two guys on three. I'm going to include the goalie. Three guys who I consider top level. Barzell,
Schaefer,
Matthew Schaefer, and Ilya Sorokin. That's it. That's it. Everybody else can be moved. I'm not.
Bill Horvat. Okay, I'm fine moving Bill Horvat, but you cannot say that Bill Horvat has not been decent this year.
Okay.
You can't argue.
If somebody offered me a couple of firsts for Bill Horvat, bye-bye.
I'm 100% with you on that. You know, it's the same thing with Sorokin, the same thing with Barzal. The only guy who's untouchable on the team is Schaefer. That's it for me. The only guy that I would not move would be Schaefer.
I'm not moving Callum Ritchie because he's doing 21 years old.
Prospects.
And I'm not moving Holmstrom. He's another guy, 23, and he's the bottom four guy. Yeah. Everybody else you can move. Everybody else in their 30s, upper 30s.
I'm not moving the prospects. Yes, I agree.
Gungun says, Grumpy was cautious all along. Did Sunex put the water bottles back where they belong? No, he did not. He's been a failure filling up his waters. Drew says, Peter DeBoer isn't going to fix this team. Agreed. I started to wonder if ownership keeps telling our GMs to try their hardest to make the playoffs every year. Now, that is a distinct possibility.
It is facts that's what they're doing.
I heard that if they don't make the playoffs, that Darsh is going to be read the riot act. That should worry everyone if that's true. Does that mean he's going to move the lone first-round pick for maybe Wayne Gretzky? Because he used to play well back in the 1980s?
Mario Lemieux too. Get him.
I mean, who knows?
Bobby Orr.
That's where we are. That's where we are. Mario says, Raza and all the Islanders' mouthpieces are in full force, spreading the talking point that they had to fire Wah now, otherwise they were going to lose out on the signing board. Well, that's just horseshit because he was out there for anybody to grab all season. All season. That's horseshit. That's right. They're Islander mouthpieces. That's exactly right. JP says, that's the cartel media is what I like to call them. We had a t-shirt. Islanders cartel media. They spit out whatever the Islanders want them to say. For whatever reason, that's what they do.
Not actually doing
journalism. Not on this show. Not on this show. JP says, by the way, just in case you think I'm making stuff up, Pierre McGuire said on his podcast that Lamoriello had input into the Wah firing. Well, he hated Wah. Enough said from what's been done over the past year under Darsh. I think that I heard that they had connections with New Jersey where DeBoer used to coach, and you don't need a telescope to think that that's possibly Lou Lamoriello, right? Let's be honest. Fleet Dream says, what was TJ's response to all this garbage by Darsh? He hates Darsh. He hates Darsh. Yep. Hates it. You know who else hates Darsh? Phil Spax hates Darsh. It's nice to have him back on, our side now. He drifted off for a while. Yeah. But, all that shit that he used to spew about Islander draft picks, now he's fighting guys who say, well, these draft picks are great. And he's like, well, they're not that great. By the way, you can't do that. I said, you're the reason that's happened. Oh, here we go. Jay Kiriako says, Phil Spax hates Darsh. Grumpy hates Darsh. What a world. Yeah, look at that. Think about it. Well, you expected me to hate him, though, right? Pretty much. He'll jump ship. Well, he was a Lamoriello guy. I said, Phil, here's the thing. You love Darsh. That's why you hate Lamoriello. I hated Lamoriello the direction, not when he started, but the direction he took the team in, and I just didn't see it in Darsh. I wanted Kakalainen, somebody who was established. Unless you had a director of hockey ops over the top of Darsh, I didn't want Darsh getting both jobs. I thought that was just a big mistake. And you know what? Again, grumpy old man proven right.
And again, who knows what ownership ownership might say, hey, this is the only thing I'm interested in. This is all we want. We only want to make
You
the
know what to
playoffs.
say?
We
Guess
want,
what? The best way to win is with the guys we have on the team right now.
but I'm saying what I said from the beginning was the reason why they might not get certain GMs is because ownership might have such, high standards right off the bat that
High
people are
standard. How
like,
could they
it's not
have high
even worth
standards?
taking the job.
How could they have high standards? They never won anything.
What I'm saying is they want you to make the playoffs immediately, regardless of whether that means you bury the team in the future into the ground or not.
All the GM says there was nothing out there that we could have gotten. They don't know anything. They don't know anything. Just tell them anything you want. Yeah, we were looking. This is a guy we were kicking tires on. The price was way too much. And believe me, you could tell them they don't know anything. Believe me. You think Ledecky knows anything about hockey? You think Malcolm knows anything living in London? They know nothing about the product. Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we had irons in the fire. It just didn't work out. That's how you get away with that. Look how we're developing guys. Next year is going to be our year. No one expected the Islanders to be where they were this year. No one expected Matthew Schaefer to be as good as he was this year. No one expected Ilya Sorokin to have almost like a Hart Trophy type season for them this year. No one expected that going in. Don't change your expectations on a couple of fluke events because that's what they are. Matt C says DeBoer isn't fixing his team, but he's definitely better a coach than Wah. Agreed. Darsh might be out by next year if this firing blows up. They're not going to get. He signed a 4-year extension. He's coaching this year and 4 more years. He's not going anywhere. They're paying Patrick Waugh for 2 more years. Darsh is going to get at least 1, probably 2 more years. Yikes. So don't expect the Islanders to be good. Data Dom says Waugh is gone, an Easter miracle. He's not the reason why the team is bad. It's poor roster management. And he wasn't great. Patrick Waugh made mistakes with line combinations, but it's like rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. Doesn't matter. The ship is going down. Matthew Sklarov says timing is a little off, but ultimately it has to be done. Okay, I don't know what. Maybe I don't know if that's
talking about Waugh getting fired.
Okay, yeah, whatever. He got scapegoated. That's fine. That's all.
Exactly what happened.
Thomas Mato says, appreciate you guys hosting this podcast. Thank you, Thomas. Data Dom says, wonder if other GMs are more excited when Darsh calls or when Yzerman calls. Both are brutally bad, and their pro scouts are clueless. Right, Yzerman has to be gone after this year. He's been there forever. He was a Detroit icon. Remember,
you got the job.
Tampa Bay never won anything under Steve Yzerman either. Never could. He was really good at drafting, really good at keeping guys, but he would never part with his prospects to put the team over the top. Wouldn't do it. Breezebaugh comes in, moves some prospects, moves some first-round picks. They win how many Stanley Cups and a permanent contender. He goes to Detroit. His free agent seasons have been bad when they've invested money. I mean, he has to go after this year. How many years can you keep a guy like that? GMs have way longer shelf life than coaches. He needs to go. He needs to go too, and so does Matthew Darsh. John McManaman, our friend from Texas, says, we always thought the Islanders were about 4 to 6 points in the playoffs. Yes, we want them in, but reality a year or 2 away. At least a year or 2 away now.
I think it's more than
that. You've taken away any salary cap flexibility that you had is now gone. It's gone because you brought in Andrei Palat. Susi expires at the end of the year, so he doesn't matter. And Braden Shen. That's $12.5 million in cap space next year that you do not have to invest in your team. You signed Pajot back. I don't know why. Isn't he redundant when you bring in Braden Shen? I'm just baffled. Braden Shen can't play anymore. That's his biggest problem. He can't play. It's not 2019 anymore. It just isn't.
Yep.
Drew says, at this point, Victor Eklund would be better than Shen for this team. He's not ready. He's not ready to come up. And do you want to bring a guy like that up to put him on the 4th line? No. He's a top 6 forward. But I'll tell you what, I'd love to see him and Barzell playing on line.
Yeah.
They're both passers, though. We need somebody to put the puck in the net. Cole Yzerman's not that answer, by the way. Cole Yzerman's got bust. He's a bust. Get ready, Islander fans. You heard it here first. Cole Yzerman, bust. Thomas Antonetti says, good evening, gents. What a week it's been. I do like the hire, truly. I feel it's better for the franchise in the short and long term. Now, do you feel that they get the coaches bump and make the playoffs? I I think they'll beat Toronto. You can't
But
lose.
I think they were going to beat Toronto regardless.
I think the problem is they're 3 points out. The playoffs are not in their own hands. You have to have other teams lose, and you have to win 4 games. You have to win 4 games. Don't you think Carolina would love to knock the Islanders? What's the type of team that Carolina would really be afraid of at the end? At the end of the day, even though they dominated the Islanders. You don't want to play Sorokin in the playoffs. You'd
No.
rather play, name Ham and Egger from Ottawa or Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or Columbus, right? Or Detroit. Those are the guys you want to play. You don't want to play a good goaltender. You'd rather play guys with sieve.
Correct.
Carolina's good, by the way, really good.
They are.
They
Do you think that they have a shot to win the cup this year?
They don't have a goalie, so the answer is no. Again,
That's the thing that always kills them.
I'll say it again, Carolina fans. Get a goalie. You don't get a goalie, you're not winning. Period. Is Brandon Bussey going to be your answer? Is Peter Kochetkov going to be your answer? Nope.
Who's your favorite for winning the cup?
Tampa.
That's who you think's going to win?
They're my favorite.
Colorado.
Here's the thing. Tampa's going to have problems with Buffalo. Buffalo owns them this year. Buffalo owns them. Beat them by, I think, 3 straight games in the last month.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck's happened at Buffalo. They've kind of fallen apart a little bit towards the
Buffalo
end.
doesn't have a goaltender play any defense either.
Yeah.
But
seems like that's the case for a lot of teams.
That's a team that has a potential to give Tampa a lot of problems. But playoffs are different. Buffalo's never been to the playoffs. 15 years
They're
since
young.
they made the playoffs.
They're a young team, too.
Inexperienced. Tampa been there, done that.
Yep.
That's, okay. Oh,
sorry.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you did. Sorry.
Thomas Anthony says, how do you feel Darce is viewed around the league by other team executives for the shrewd moves he made replacing? Well, I think his stock as a major player rose a bit by making this label. I think they look at him as a clown.
Yeah, whoever had the previous comment, I don't remember who it was who posted it, where teams smile whenever Darce contacts them. Yeah, that hit the nail right on the head. I think teams look forward to receiving a phone call from him because they know they're absolutely going to just win every trade, essentially.
I don't think league executives look at hiring a head coach as anywhere near as valuable as being able to acquire players to make your team better. Again, correct. I'll say it here, as I've said 100 times on multiple shows, players win games, coaches lose them. It's just that plain and simple. You don't have any talent, guess what? You're not winning the majority of your games.
Yep.
Who says the Islanders GM makes me want to apply for the next GM Open? I'm dead serious. Yeah, it was a horrible GM hire. Horrible.
Yeah, and back to what you previously said, the players are the ones who play the games, not the coaches.
Right.
They're the ones who are out there actually doing it.
Yeah. When was the last time Peter DeBoer strapped up the skates and scored a goal? Never.
You have the best game plan on the planet, but if you don't have the actual pieces to execute it doesn't matter.
And again, I'm not ripping Peter DeBoer. I think he's better than Patrick Roy, but I just question why he did it now. Because, we want to make the playoffs. 4 games to go. I remember Lou Lamoriello did that once with Jacques Lemaire. He fired him and brought in Larry Robinson. I couldn't tell you the year. And they wound up winning the Stanley Cup with Larry Robinson as head coach. They did. I think it was 10 games to go in the season. Those Devils teams were really freaking good. They had won under Jacques Lemaire before. They'd won a Stanley Cup under Jacques Lemaire. But they needed a change of voice. That's fine. They were loaded, though. Yeah. Think about how talented they were back in the day. And they had Marty Brodeur. They had the defense, Niedermeyer and Danico and Tommy Albin and, the forward group, Bill Guerin, Valerie Zelapukin. I mean, a lot of guys, Bobby Holik. They don't have those guys on the Islanders. They just don't. That's why it doesn't really matter for this year. Again, Peter DeBoer, better head coach than Patrick Roy. No doubt about it. It's not enough to get this team in the playoffs, though. Johnny Mack says the coaching move was done to get a coach and GM hired and win with his coach to get him before others were able to. Roy was not Darce's coach. That's true. Roy was a favorite of the ownership group. Absolutely. And that's why he was kept. I mean, I don't care. Like I said, again, Not against the DeBoer hiring. I just question the timing. That's all. You thought 4 games was going to make a difference? Anyone could have taken him. Any team that's out of the playoff hunt, Toronto, for instance, could have contacted Peter DeBoer and said, "We want you here." There's a reason why nobody contacted him. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe other teams don't think he can get you over the hump. He hasn't been able to do it in his career so far. Drew says it's clear that the missed opportunities on Darce's end for not trading a combined one bottom 6 forward, 2 second-round picks, 2 fourth-round picks, and a 5th-rounder for Chinnikov and Trevor Zegras. Exactly. We talked about this in the offseason. Why are you not investing in a guy like Zegras? He was cheap. Chinnikov went for nothing. Those are guys who are young and have talent. Those are the type of guys those are the type of guys you should be acquiring and bringing in. You didn't think Florida thinks they got a steal for what they got traded for Zegras? It's been their best offensive player this year. That's the type of guys you want to add to your roster. Young guys like that. Chinnikov's been great with Pittsburgh. Sometimes a change of scenery for those young guys is just what they need. You're not going to see Braden Shen getting any better than he is right now, which is bad. They just don't think like that. They don't have that type of mentality. They haven't had for a number of years. Drew says Darce has significantly set back the franchise for years. Agreed. You got to hope that everybody pans out for the Islanders to have a shot.
That's not going to happen.
It's just not. I'm hoping Victor Eklund can. He's still a couple of years away. He's not going to make the team next year. Aitchison, he's years away too. Thomas Anthony said, would you bring Eklund up right at the end of the season, no matter the playoff standing? No, he's not ready. I don't care that he's got, 6 or 7 assists down in Bridgeport. He's not ready. Thomas Anthony says, what do you think of Palat now slated for the 4th line? In all seriousness, do you see him possibly being effective in that role now? No. He's done. He's done as a player. Remember, when he first came here, he was on the first line. Andrei Palat hasn't been a player for 5 years when he was last with Tampa. And he was he wasn't a top guy for Tampa. He was a nuts and bolts guy. He was good in the playoffs. He was a good playoff performer. But you know what? That was years ago. He's 36 now. He's 36. Game past him. I mean,
age is undefeated.
They're old. It's undefeated. Well, almost undefeated, X. One guy quit on top. Thomas.
Hi, Grumpy.
The people's champion. Thomas Anthony says, I'd like the idea of Barzal centering Richie and Shen. I think both would definitely benefit from his speed and playmaking skills. Braden Shen can't play anymore. They're not going to put Barzal. They're not going to have Barzal.
Up.
They want Shen as the center. That's what they want. Braden Shen's finished.
Yes.
Data Dom says the Canes called up 4 AHLers today from the Chicago Wolves. They can lock up the East as early as Saturday. Well, they're not interested in locking up can it be the East on Saturday? They got to have a lot of things go their way. But okay, so you replace 4 guys? Who do you think they're going to rest? They're going to rest the defensemen. I'm going to think. I don't think they're going to rest many of their forwards. They'll probably rest defensemen. Craig, the regular human bartender, says, while I'm happy with the Islanders getting established coach success, I generally want to know if Darce is just rushing this and it'll be more of the same, maybe make the playoffs, maybe miss, patience gone. Yeah, I think it's just same as what are they going to do next year? Do you think he's going to make any moves in the offseason?
Maybe he'll trade away more picks.
Well, we'll see how that works. You want to piss off a fan base, trade one. You had two first-round picks going into this year's draft, which is a pretty strong draft, and you want to trading one away for a guy who, looks like he's hauling an ice wagon on his back. And, you wind up keeping guys who were in the last year deals who could have netted you a couple of first-round picks and maybe a couple of seconds.
He'll trade more picks away for 33-year-olds.
Mind-boggling. He's a bad GM. He's stupid. And you know what? He's smiling all the time in interviews. He likes being on camera. That's what it is. He likes being on camera. Drew adds, I think ownership knows how negatively the Shen trade was received by us. Call me crazy. Does it seem like Darcy's seat is getting a bit warm? No, I don't think so. I wish it was. I wish it was steaming hot, but I don't think it's hot now. I don't think it's warming up. Not yet. Another bad year, yes, but not now. JP says, Grumpy, you're never going to win with these owners ever. That's a distinct possibility.
No, you're not.
They're not afraid to invest money. They just don't know. Again, they're another group of guys who don't know what they don't know. That's it. Craig says, once again, I genuinely think Wad deserves better than being fired on Easter. I get it's a results business, but you don't do that to a Hall of Famer. I don't think that really has any bearing on it. They were playing really well till like the last week or so. I mean, they were showing tremendous effort in games, winning games they shouldn't have, just with effort and hustle, because it certainly wasn't on talent. And then they had the Montreal game, they had the Chicago game, they had they had a couple of games where they got blown out down the stretch. That's because other teams are playing for their playoff lives as well, right? Yep. And that's what happens. You can play hard all the time and other teams are, just kind of coasting through the regular season. But when it comes to nut cutting time, when everybody's trying to, then everybody's playing hard. And that's when you get exposed. That's because you have no more to give.
Yep. You got multiple teams competing for those last couple of spots.
Yep.
You're getting everybody's best game.
Yep. My Little Brownie says, with tiny playoff hopes left, will Schaefer still get the Calder? Absolutely. Yep. That would be the only thing salvageable from this season.
Yeah, he should. I would be honestly astounded if he didn't win it.
He's going to be unanimous.
Yes.
Calder Trophy. Absolutely. And I think you're going to see Sorokin still get votes for Vezina. I don't think he's going to win.
You think it's going to be Vasilevsky?
Vasilevsky. I think Vasilevsky will win that. JP says DeBoer said to the media that the day he was hired was the first time that he'd spoken to Darsh. This ownership group, Lamoriello and Darsh, they're the clown show, and the clown is evil. Yeah. See, it's like you interviewed one coach. It's not like you're interviewing Bill Belichick. You know what I mean? Peter DeBoer isn't Bill Belichick or, Bill Parcells or Vince Lombardi back in the day. It's Peter DeBoer. You didn't think it was worth interviewing other. What are your plans for the team? What do you think the plan? Do you think the team needs to win? Now, he's a guy, I don't think he's in for a rebuilding prospect. I think he wants to win now. So what does that mean? Going to dump all your prospects and load up on, finished cash players and hope that Schaefer can win you a championship all on his own? That's not going to happen. Like I said, if I'm his management team, I'm like, dude, we're getting out of here as soon as we can. That's what I would do. I'd say ownership, you need to show me that you're committed to winning here and not some type of stopgap shit where we just try to squeak in the playoffs. Connor McDavid did it with Edmonton, right? Signed a 3-year extension last offseason. You know what that means? They don't win a cup in 3 years. He's gone.
Yep.
He's going to Toronto. That's where he's going. That's where Connor McDavid is going next. He's not re-signing with Edmonton.
Why does everyone want to go to Toronto?
Because a lot of them, they're from that area.
I know. I was just wondering why Toronto is
It's the center. It's the center of the hockey universe up in Canada. Is Toronto. Why does everyone want to play for the Rangers as opposed to the Islanders? They're only separated by 15 miles. But everyone wants to play for the Rangers. Nobody wants to play for the Islanders. Nobody.
True.
True. That's there's certain teams are marquee teams. Montreal, you got to speak French.
Yeah.
I think that hurts them in that regard. Data Dom says DeBoer is a phenomenal X's and O's coach. He'll get the most out of the crappy roster Darce gives him, far better than lucky ass Wah. Okay. And I think that'll be true next year. I just don't see it happening this year. Craig, the regular human bartender, says the team fell off the cliff after all of Darce's in-season trades. I don't trust them this offseason, waiting for a Barzell trade for Rempe just to help the Rangers. You know what, X? The Rangers are probably going to get Gavin McKenna.
He's still going to the Pens.
He's not going to Penguins. That's not happening.
It's happening.
Gavin McKenna to the Rangers. How do you think Islander fans feel about that? How about that? Because without Schaefer,
we know he's a fighter. We know Gavin McKenna's a fighter. We do know that.
Well, yeah, he likes to beat up people in the streets.
That is very true. At Penn State, big fan.
Greg Frost says Lamoriello is still calling the shots. Darsh is a puppet. Low class move firing Wild with 4 games left. I think this team is still Mickey Mouse. They're killing Sorokin. Going to do the same with Schaefer. Been a fan for 52 years. Really hard to remain. I'm loving the NBA though. Yeah, see that was it's funny that Greg mentioned. It's like I'm like what do we have to look forward to? I mean, I was talking with TJ. I'm like, just watching Matthew Schaefer is about it for the next few years.
We had previously this draft coming up, and then hopefully prospect growth, seeing who gets out, but not anymore.
Moving guys like Lee and Pajot, Tony D'Angelo at the deadline to get more assets. They needed another year to load up on. And then you could do things when you have so much draft capital. There's so many things you can do. Matthew Darsh has limited what the Islanders can do going forward. He just has.
He's almost extinguished what they can do going forward.
Lamoriello did the same thing year after year, limited the options that they had.
Yep.
That's the biggest problem. That you're limiting things you can do in the offseason. The team isn't good enough. Everyone knew the team wasn't good enough. I'm already predicting next year we're not making the playoffs next year. I've already made that prediction.
Wow. So you think potential for back-to-back missing out on the playoffs?
Absolutely. Other teams are going to get better.
Yes, that is true. That is true. The next one here is from Dan. He says, what a disaster of a season. This is the worst possible scenario, 100%. You went all in to try and make the playoffs, and you fall just short right at the end. And that, Grumpy, that is exactly what your prediction was.
That was my deadline.
I'll just cut you off. Yes, that was your prediction from the start. You absolutely did that.
That's right. That was my trade deadline prediction right there.
Yes. Yes. Go all in.
I'm here, even though X didn't send me a notification.
Dude.
I'm just hoping Son X is nice to me tonight for a change. Why are you not sending
out change? Freedom's always the one who's mean to me.
Why are you not sending out notifications, X? Next. Stop wallowing on ineptitude. Move to the next comment. Craig, the regular human bartender, says, you hear all the talking heads proposing trading Barzell and Pelech. I don't trust Darsh to get the right return after these moves. Okay. You want to move Matt? Okay. You want to move Pelech? Absolutely. He's on the downside. Probably still your best defensive defenseman for whatever that's worth. Matt Barzell is your best offensive player.
Yes, and he's shown it this year. Most points at anybody on the team. He's been phenomenal.
What are you going to get for that? Why would you not move a Bo Horvat, for instance?
Didn't they just sign Bo Horvat to like a huge deal?
They did the same thing with Barzell. Same thing with Barzell. How many years does Barzell have left, and how many years does Horvat have left? I'm going to say the same amount of years.
Hold on. Let's see. Matt Barzal is on 3 of 8, 9.15 a year. And then Horvat is on 3 of 8, 8.5 mil a year.
There you go. Same contract.
God, man, I didn't realize Bo Horvat was on his third year of his contract.
And how much older is Bo Horvat than Matt Barzal?
31 and
28.
Barzal is 28. So Barzal is going to absolutely fetch you more, even though his contract's a mil higher. He's going to fetch you more than Bo Horvat would.
He's a better player than Bo Horvat.
He's also younger. So
okay, that's like. So what are you getting for him? What are you getting for him? You wouldn't trade for Robert Thomas. The price was too high. Then what should you get for Matt Barzal? 3 number ones?
First round. I was going to say bare minimum, at least a first, if not 2 first-round picks.
If you're trading Matt Barzal and Adam Pelech, what are you doing in essence? You're rebuilding, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. You think this guy is going to be rebuilding after he just invested in a bunch of old guys and stopped the rebuild or the retool with when he had the draft picks and the options to get more? You think now he's going to do it in this offseason? It's never happening. It's not happening.
What do you think? What are your thoughts as to what he's going to do in the offseason?
He's going to do nothing.
He's going to bring in some pickleball and get coffee.
He's going to bring in some ham and egger free agent like Jonathan Drouin and hope that he pans out. He's limited what he can do. They don't have any money. They're probably going to re-sign Anders Lee, right? He's your captain.
Pray to God not.
Okay. Well, look at look at how much money they have.
Their current cap space is 2.6 mil.
For next year? For next year.
Sorry, that's the 2025, 2026.
Well, you need to look at 26, 27. That's the one you need to look at.
Cap projections, 26, 27, their projected cap space is going to be 14.3 mil.
Okay.
For next year.
And how many guys are under contract and how many of the guys have to sign?
Okay. Active roster, they got 21 out of 23, and then standard contracts 29 out of 50. That's for next year.
Okay, who's signed and who's not next year? You can just run right down the line and see who's signed next year and who they need to sign, because $14 million doesn't go as far as it used to.
I go to depth
okay,
chart.
Keep scrolling. Okay, wrong screen. You had it up before. Whatever you had up before was the right one. There we go.
There's no more scrolling. Oh, here we go.
There you go. Okay, Anders Lee's a free agent. Okay, keep scrolling. You have Maxim Shabanov, if he comes back as a free agent. Mark Gatcomb, he's a free agent. You have Carson Soucy, Tony DeAngelo. You assume they'd bring them back. Bo Christ, who knows if they'll bring him back. And you have David Reddick. So let's say you resign DeAngelo. You think DeAngelo is going to take $1 million like he did this year?
No, he'd want more.
He's going to probably want a little bit more. They're going to need another defenseman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is this long-term injury? Is that included in there?
Does not look like it is. No.
Okay. I'm just confused. Okay. Let's say they sign Anders Lee back for $4 million. Now you're down to 10.
Why would they sign him back? He's 35.
Why did they trade for Braden Shen, who was 34 and has 2 years left on his deal? Why did they do that? Why did they trade for Andre Palat, who's 35 and has a $6 million a year contract? They had options to do things. There's not a whole lot of valuable free agents out there anymore because teams are locking them up with the salary cap going up.
Yeah, it increases every year. Yeah. I don't know. I can't see them as signing him back. If they do sign him back, honestly, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I really don't. If he gets signed back.
Welcome to being congratulations on being an Islanders fan.
Let him go. Let him go. If you want to pull, and I said this before, if you want to pull we want him to retire as an Islander, sign him on a one-day contract like the Penguins did with Fleury. Sign him on a one-day contract and retire as an Islander. There you go. He gets a storybook ending. Great. Woo. Don't sacrifice the team because you want this guy to retire as an Islander. Don't do that.
Okay. Where are you seeing that the Islanders have how much in cap space did you say they had?
If you look at next year, they have for projected cap space, they have positive 14.3 mil. In projected cap space for the 26-27 season.
Okay, because the salary cap's going up 9.
Correct. It goes up every year.
But you also see that they have negative cap space this year.
This year of 3.8.
So that's in penalties.
Like they have 11.
Okay, so that's penalties that go to them next year.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
They're a little bit under 11. They'll be like 10 something. So.
Okay. So, like I said, but there's bonuses in there too. I mean, Schaefer's going to get whatever bonuses. He's going to hit those bonuses, right? He's going to want hitting those bonuses.
Yes, he absolutely will.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So they're not. I don't see them. It would be the total opposite of what they've done this year. Total opposite. Okay. Next, please. X. Data Dom says any shot ownership was endorsed as they are saying they need to make the playoffs because of Schaefer gaining national attention and greed for gate revenue. Yeah, that's a distinct possibility.
Would not shock me if that was
again, if you're a good general manager, is Braden Shen going to help you make the playoffs? I mean, he said the team doesn't have any leadership. The whole team's been built on leadership. The guys in the room, everyone's a leader in the room. Well, obviously not.
You have a bunch of leaders and no performers. That's great.
Too many Chiefs and no Indians.
Yep.
Dan Lashan says they better not re-sign Lee. I'm so worried he's coming back. We have way too many third-line type wingers. The whole team, the third-line wingers. Callum Ritchie has been good this year for them, particularly down the stretch. Freedom Front Adventure says 3 years from now, when Grumpy fires Son X and hires Baby Liza, I am looking forward to the change in show sponsors. New sponsors will be Haagen-Dazs, Fisher-Price, and Naps. Grumpy and Liza both take naps. Drew says, I think these are the problems the owners have created. Remember, they wanted Ken Highland before Darsh, by the way. Never once considered Kakalinen or Bergman. Also, Jersey fired Tom Fitzgerald, right? How many years Tom Fitzgerald been in Jersey? And they just said, you know what? Nope. You fired Lindsey Rupp. You brought in the guy who used to be in Toronto and still don't make the playoffs. You're gone. And the fact that they didn't make the trade to bring in Quinn Hughes when they certainly had the ammunition to. And they didn't do it. Now he's in Minnesota. They can still sign him as a free agent, but that's what they were hoping. They wanted all the Hughes boys together. He didn't pull off that deal. Next, please. Charlie Milholland says, why didn't any of the Islanders pro scouts pound the table and tell Darsh not to make these trades? And if he overrode their advice, then he better learn from that. Listen to your scouts. He doesn't know what he doesn't know. Again, they could say whatever they want, but he is the final answer. He's the guy you have to answer to. He's the one responsible for those deals. JP says that this DeBoer hiring has Lulu written all over it. Maybe, but Peter DeBoer is not a shitty coach. He's not. Drew said ownership knew the fans were disgruntled with Lou. They shit canned him to free us up on marketing, deceive the fan base into thinking change was coming. But in reality, we were all fools for believing.
You repeat the same exact process all over again.
Darsh is even worse than Lamoriello. You look at the guys Lamoriello brought in when he gave up first-round picks. They all contributed to the team in some aspect, right? Horvat's still contributing to the team. Palmieri has been okay when he's played. I mean,
the only thing that the players that Darsh has brought in has contributed to is the cap hit. That's it.
You're getting closer to Social Security age.
Yep.
JP says they're selling before Schaefer gets to free agency, guaranteed. Well, let me tell you something.
They didn't do that in the past.
Nope.
So let's hope history doesn't repeat itself on that one, right?
Frank from Empire State says, who else did you want? Cassidy. DeBoer is good, better than Wahoo I liked, but his defense was non-existent, and his stupid line changing constantly I hated, and the damn early goalie pulling.
I don't think that you had an issue with the signing of DeBoer and getting rid of Waugh. I think the issue that you had was why was it done
now? Yeah,
exactly. For the time frame of when it was done, why was it done? The signing's not bad. It's just the timing. Exactly what it is.
It's a scapegoat move.
Yes.
That's the only. It's a scapegoat.
Take the heat off of everyone else.
Yeah. That was it. I said DeBoer, and here's the thing: pulling the goaltender early. How often did the Islanders give up empty net goals? Not too often. 8 minutes with an empty net, and they never get scored on. It's like teams can't even hit the net. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it. They just keep missing empty net after empty net. That has not come back to hurt the Islanders, and they've come back and tied games and won them in overtime numerous times this year by pulling the goaltender early.
The St. Louis game when they came back and tied it up and then ended up winning overtime. That was wild.
Golf Op says, seems like Rosner has had Darsh in his ear all year. So many soft puff pieces, very little criticism. I have no comment on that at this time. Don't Smoke Crack says Shape is probably thinking, what the F type of organization is this? Bush League joke of a franchise. I don't think he's saying that. But you know what? His representation is absolutely thinking that. And the people around him, he had 100 people in the stands in Toronto for that game. I don't know, it's not Maple Leaf Gardens anymore, whatever the hell they call it. Or whatever it is, for up to Toronto. You have 100 fans up there. You know they're in his ear. And when they get Connor McDavid up there in 2 years, don't think for a second that they're not thinking, yep, we're going hard after this kid. He could be a UFA at the age of 25. Think about that.
They're
20
going to have to win something or accomplish something for him to want to remain here.
They've just wasted this year, next year, probably the year after of his first contract. And like I said, if I'm his agent, yeah, I'll take a long-term deal. I'm going to take it that gets me right to UFA status.
Yep.
That's it. I would never commit to more years to this team until I saw a positive direction change. No way. Next, please. Frank from Empire State says, word was the Leafs were going to get DeBoer, so Darsh got him first. The Leafs could have had him all year. They've been out of the playoff hunt all year. They could have fired Berube all year long and gone after DeBoer all year long. Maybe they want Bruce Cassidy after the season. You know what I'm going to bet? Toronto interviews more than one guy. That much I'm going to guarantee you. How do you know who the best coach is until you interview more than one? How many head coaches has Matthew Darsh even interviewed in his whole career? One.
Do you think they actually even interviewed him?
No, probably not.
Probably just brought him in and said, hey, we're going to hire you.
Yeah.
Let's just have a chat.
I mean, you have to interview more than one coach.
Yeah. See what else is out there. Just at least attempt to. I mean, even if that's the guy you want, at least look at what other options you possibly have first. It would be like going into a car dealership saying, okay, that's the car. I'm going to test drive this. That's it. That's the one. I'm not even going to look at what else is out there.
I'm not going to go to any other dealers.
See if I get a better price on
any other vehicles. Just that one. The one with the, with the shiny paint
Who
on.
does that? No
Guys
one.
like Matthew Darsh. Nobody does.
No one. Do that. What company interviews one candidate only for a position and no one else? None.
Nobody.
None.
Nobody.
It doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen. Certainly not
in the NHL, I guess.
Again, it's not like he's the second coming of Scotty Bowman.
No, we're not saying that he's a bad coach. We're not saying that it's a stupid hire. We're just saying the fact that you don't interview anyone else is just astounding.
It's called doing your due diligence.
Correct.
Doing your due diligence. That's what the whole thing's about, doing your due diligence.
Correct.
Data Dom says, Darsh openly admitted they were a smoke and mirrors team, and then buying anyway is a fireable offense. Don't care if it's your first year. Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. And here's the thing. As a GM, how do you not know that? And here's the thing. I'm not saying that Matthew Darsh certainly knows more about the team than I do. And if a dope like me could see it, how could he not see it? He even admits that he saw that, and he's still doubled and tripled down and quadrupled down on this team. It is a fireable offense.
It's like there's either something wrong with you or you're just dumb. It's one of the two.
Like I said, he likes being in front of the camera.
You knew there was a problem. You knew what the problem was, and you continued to push forward.
I'm going to say one thing. The only team that was mismanaged more than the Islanders, San Jose Sharks.
Yeah.
They had the second pick in the draft, and I'm going to tell you what. I don't know what they offered the Islanders, but they should have offered them last year's number one pick, which would have been Michael Misia, number 2. Could have given them Sam Dickinson, the defenseman. Could have given them this year's unprotected first-round pick, whoever it was, and given them Will Smith. That'd give Darsh something to think about for the number one overall pick, Matthew Schaefer. How good would San Jose Sharks be if they had Schaefer and Celebrini on the team at the same time? Think about that.
Good.
That's what they should have done. I think they regret not going all in to get Schaefer. Charlie Milholland says, firmly believe there's hidden hands behind the scene. Ownership, Pellegrini, Lewis still is a consultant. Yeah, maybe in some regards. I just don't think Darsh's in over his head. Doesn't know what he's doing.
Yep.
Sorry. He sucks. Freedom Fun Adventure says the Islanders were never good this season. Sorokin had a historic season. Schaefer, Ritchie, and Heineman have been positive and nice storylines. I said all year, not a playoff team. Yeah, they haven't been. Schaefer's been great. Sorokin's been great.
That's why they've been winning games, because of those two. Sorokin's been I'm not even going to say this. Schaefer's been great, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him and his performance this year, but Sorokin's the reason why they've been winning games. He's been standing on his head night in, night out for majority of the season. Without him doing that, they would lose.
And Schaefer winning games on his own.
I think it's more so to do with Sorokin, though.
You see other teams, they just target Schaefer now. Beat us without him. And they can't do it.
Because nobody else can create.
Yep. Drew says the Shen trade was one thing. The Pajot re-signing was just brutal. I guarantee he won't even be playable for 2 years. You can play Shen's not even playable now. JP says, JP says the Pajot deal, the Shen trade, the Palat trade, all hockey ops malfeasance. True. All true. I told you it was going to happen. There were people on this who listened to us who said, "Oh, we want to give him to the deadline." I'm like,
I did that. I said I wanted to give him to the deadline. I was not going to count him out, and then he made me count him out.
You got to read the tea leaves.
I know. I'm just saying. I want to get. I'm always somebody who's going to give somebody the opportunity to screw up before I write them off, and he screwed up, so I'm writing him off.
Drew says, first 2 years are full no trade clause for a 34-year-old bottom six forward. Shake my head. Yeah, well, that's what they do. Data Dom says Robert Thomas 7 goals, 11 assists, plus 17 in 14 games since the deadline. Blues are 8-3-3 in that span. Shen was an anchor. Yeah, like I said, you don't know if he was a cancer in the locker room. He was the captain, wasn't he? I think he was the captain. But if you're negative in the room, it affects the rest of the team.
Yeah.
It's not a mistake that as soon as he leaves, St. Louis takes off. Robert Thomas has been great, and the Islanders have just sputtered. I'm not saying he has that type of influence in the Islanders room, but it's a problem.
Well, I'm just saying it's a little weird that as soon as he comes to the Islanders, they start losing. I mean, it wasn't as soon as he came here, but towards the tail end, they've been losing games.
True.
Not a surprise. I mean,
JP says the 4-day break may be the only thing that makes the final spot of the suck zone close, but if Ottawa and Montreal beat them, it won't matter. I don't think they can afford to lose more. I don't think they can afford to lose more than one game. I really don't. If they lose to Ottawa, you're going to have Philadelphia collapse, Columbus collapse, they're already in semi-collapse.
Here's how I think they can make it in. They beat Toronto. They beat Ottawa. They lose to Montreal, and Carolina sits a bunch of guys because they've already clinched the number 1 spot in the East, and the Islanders beat them the last game of the season.
Okay, but then the whole thing is you don't think the Flyers aren't winning any games.
I'm not saying the Flyers aren't going to.
That's the only way they get in. That's the only way they get in. You see my point?
Well, what I'm saying is, do you not think that the Flyers could lose at least their last 2 games this season and potentially against Winnipeg?
I think Winnipeg will be out of it by then.
Okay. Well, I definitely think that they have the possibility to lose.
Okay.
Remember, they played Carolina the game before the last game, and then they play Montreal, is going to be consistently trying to fight for better position.
Montreal and Carolina are in the same boat. If Montreal probably has nothing to play for the last day of the season, nothing, and it's a home game for Philadelphia. I mean, here's the thing: Philadelphia beats Detroit tomorrow. They're in really good shape.
Yes,
really good shape. The Islanders have to win and you're in, right? Win and you're in.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a reason why the Islanders are 11% chance to win and make the playoffs, and Philadelphia is 67. I still don't believe in them, but they have more points. Yeah. Charlie Milholland says, me personally, I'm rooting for 4 losses and a pick at number 14. Draft a 6'4" mole defenseman, Matt Gustafson. Well, he's got to be a right shot defenseman. That's what they need.
Yes.
They need everything except for goaltender. They don't need that. Freedom Gun says, my question is for Grumpy. Grumpy, why has Sonex repeatedly told me I had to submit content to him on Twitter and then tonight admit he doesn't use Twitter? Why doesn't he have an email? He has an email too.
I do. Okay. You know what?
You have the Twitter page. I don't know what you're talking about.
I have the Twitter page. What I was saying is I don't go on Twitter actively and know how to bookmark stuff. I've never done that before. I know
it was bookmarked for you. All you do is push the bookmark button. It all popped up, right?
I don't know where that was. You want to know what I know how to do? I know how to go to search on there. I know how to go to the profile, and then I know how to go to the direct messages. That's it. That is my immense knowledge of Twitter.
Okay. Jake Kiriako says, I'm going to steal an idea from Isles Fix that replacing a coach is a get out of jail free card, and Darce has already used it. Not good. Yeah. Forever Spartan says Robert Eklund would have cost a lot more than
Robert
what
Thomas.
they gave for Shen.
Robert Thomas.
A first round plus Eklund and Iserman wouldn't have been worth it for Thomas mortgaging the future. Who said you had to give up Eklund? If you tell, they could have traded. Okay, here's the thing. You could have traded Andrews Lee, and you could have traded J.G. Pajot, gotten 2 firsts and a second. You could have given them 2 firsts and Cole Iserman for Robert Thomas. That's what I'm talking about, not maximizing your assets. You don't need to keep the 35-year-old or the 36-year-old left wing. You don't need to keep the 33-year-old diminished return center. You move those guys for teams making a playoff push, and you recoup assets. Then you can take those assets and get yourself a Robert Thomas. That's what you can do. They chose not to do that. Instead, they pissed away way more for the value of the player than what they're taking to get Robert Thomas. Who says maybe teams don't value Eklund? You could have traded Aitchison if you wanted to. Why not? He's a left shot defenseman. The team's loaded in left shot defenseman. He's never going to be on the first power play ever. That's Matthew Schaefer's spot. Yep. Matthew Schaefer is the quarterback of the power play.
Yep.
I mean, like I said, there's so many things you could have done. They did not. He did the exact opposite of what they should have done. Daddy Dom says the Islanders are -8 at 5-5 since the deadline. And you want to know who's the worst? That is Braden Shen is the worst out of all that. Playing at a 77-point pace. They're just 28, 31, and 19 in regulation this season. 14 and 5 in overtime and shootout is helping a lot. Exactly. That is not repeatable. It's just not. Matthew DiBernardo says, I love the DeBoer hiring. I hope with tempered expectations that Darce is overly aggressive over the summer. Who do you think wears the C after Lee walks? Or do you think the Islanders wait a year or two and name Schaefer captain? I think I wonder why they haven't signed Lee back. Maybe he's playing hardball. Maybe he thinks he's worth more than he is. Maybe he doesn't want to take a pay cut. I don't know. But if I was going to say who the next captain will be, it's not going to be Schaefer. It would be Bo Horvat.
It's either going to be Bo Horvat or Barzal.
And I don't think he's going to be overly aggressive in the summer. He doesn't have a whole lot to deal with unless you consider moving the first-round draft pick. How about that?
That's what I said he's going to do.
You don't deal with 2 first-round draft picks and come out with none?
For a 33-year-old.
Freedom Fund says, I miss positive X. DeBoer, major upgrade over Wah. Wah lost me by stating we played good enough to win when they obviously didn't. Dallas screwed him, firing him after all jobs filled. Well, he blew it with Ottinger. That was dumb. That's what cost him the job. BJS says, sounds like Lou got Wah fired. Lou needs to go. Yeah, Lou's gone. Freedom Fund says, I thought the exact same thing when I heard about the players bothered by Wah talking about their cups. They resent high expectations. They resent anyone who wants them to earn their money and play hard. Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. Jake Kiriako says, I like the Henneman trade as Dobson put us in a bad spot, but every trade and move by Darce has been bad. I say that with liking Shen as a player, but there are so many holes in this lineup. They should have gotten more for Noah Dobson. Henneman, no. I don't care what he did, however many goals he has. No, he's a fourth liner. Here's the thing. He's not going to play on the first line under Peter DeBoer. That much I can guarantee you. You're going to see him on the fourth line, third line. That's where he's going to be. That's where he belongs. Not a first line player. You could have moved him to Columbus and for those 2 first-round picks, which are actually higher than the ones they got, I believe. Or maybe they were less. It doesn't matter. They could have gotten 2 firsts from Columbus and maybe a Voronkov, a big physical power forward down low, which makes Lee redundant. This means you absolutely move Lee at the deadline. There were so many things you could have done and didn't. Terrible. Don't Smoke Crack says, lovely to know that DeBoer favors vets. Guess that means the kids won't play next year and we'll bringing them up in 30-plus-year-old guys. That's the Islanders' way, so this should be a perfect fit. Yeah, I don't think he's into rebuilding.
Yeah, it's not good.
Big Islander fan says, I would move Barzal for the right price. I guess for the right price, you can move anybody.
With the exception of Schaefer, that's the only one who I'm not moving, and the prospects.
Schaefer, I'd be willing to move some of the prospects. Eklund's a guy I'd keep. I'm not sold on Aitchison yet. And Yzerman, move him before he totally loses value. Not trading draft picks. I hate trading draft picks. Freedom Fund Adventure says, Darce got feedback on DeBoer from Brisebois and Cooper, who were his longtime friends and former coworkers. They both worked with DeBoer with Team Canada. Do you have to pay to publish shows or feeding X costs? Yeah, no, it's the software that we have to get. It was a lot. Okay. We really don't make any money on these shows, I'll be honest with you. But the little bit we made kind of defrayed costs. But for that other show, it was like, I don't want to spend like $1,000 a year just to put on a show. I can't. There's other things I'd rather do with $1,000. Frank from Empire State says Barzell and Horvat are not and will not be moved. I agree. I don't think they're getting moved either. Tim Ward says, you're so full of it. You're in Carolina and you heard Darce is in trouble. Get real. Who said Darce was in trouble? We didn't hear that. We didn't say Darce was in trouble.
I think you had said something along the lines that, like, you heard from somebody that.
Oh, I heard that he was they didn't make the playoffs. He's going to be read the Riot Act.
Riot Act, yes.
Remember, just doesn't matter where you live. The phone, I'm able to dial out of North Carolina, so I'm able to do that. So I'm not hearing things I'm hearing from people in North Carolina. That's all I'll say. Freedom Fund Adventure says, life lesson, God doesn't reward quitters. When TJ the quitter left, the Islanders got Schaefer and began giving us tons to talk about, unlike the Lou era. True. TJ really wishes he could do the show. He really does.
Yep.
Moose Jaw Sasquatch says, half the team is now on their fourth head coach. Is coaching really a problem? No, it's never been the problem. It's never been the problem. I've been saying that for years and years. TJ used to say every year, it's the power play. It's the power play. It's the coach. It's the coach. I'm like, dude, it's the players. It's always the players. The players are the ones who have to produce on that. When they don't produce, there's a reason. Barry Trotz, was he a shitty coach? No. Lane Lambert, was he a shitty coach? Maybe. Patrick Watt, was he a shitty coach? Maybe. Peter DeBoer, was he a shitty coach? No.
You're on coach 4. At what point in time do you just suck it up and say, hey, it's not the coach, it's the team?
A lot of these guys are the same guys who've been here for years and years and years.
Get it done.
Freedom Fund says, how many coaches does Lee and his country club boys get fired? When demands put on them, they half-ass it, tune out, go to ownership, see this movie so often since JT started it. Yeah. At some point in time, you just got to. I think they're all good people, but they're just comfortable.
Good,
just really comfortable.
Just because you're a good person, though, doesn't mean that you're a great player. And a lot of really great players in sports are not good people.
Yeah, they're just very, very comfortable. They love everybody, likes one another. The cul-de-sac crew. I named them that for a reason.
Tight-knit group that looks forward to their early vacation.
And doesn't matter if they win or lose, no repercussions.
Like the Raiders.
When was the last time they moved out a core piece on this team? No adoption? Because he finally said, I'm not signing back here? Can you name another core piece that has been moved off of this roster?
Usually they leave or retire.
And I might be just talking shit, but I can't think of one.
I would say Jonathan Tavares, but he left on his own.
He didn't want to be here. He goes to Toronto, wearing the picture of the Toronto pajamas. Matthew Schaefer probably got the same picture. Probably John Tavares pajamas he got. Who knows? Greg Frost says, I think if the Habs get goaltending, they win the cup, and I hate them. They don't have the goaltending, though. I don't think you can count on either one of these guys to win your cup. Jake Kiriako says, who do you trust more, Darce managing the Iran war or Trump managing the Islanders? Probably Trump managing the Islanders.
Oh, that was funny.
Freedom Fund Adventure says, you want to know what a damning indictment on the Islanders is? Schaefer hit more than any other player by far.
Is more physical than Isles, all leadership and higher salaries and effort size.
Yeah. Here's the thing. That kid wants to win.
He does. He does.
Kid wants to win. You run the risk of alienating him. if you bottom out. You really do. You can do that at the beginning. Like I said, when Lamoriello came in with Trotz, they should have started their rebuild right there. They chose not to. They chose to run with the same guys for years, never good enough to win. Tried to double down, adding guys. Never win anything.
If they had started the rebuild with Trotz, do you think that they would have had the pick to pick Schaefer?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
So if they had started the rebuild with Trotz, do you think that now, looking at it now, that they would have that same #1 overall pick to get Schaefer?
Probably not, but your team would be much better.
I agree with that, but
they lucked into that pick. They lucked into it. They got the ping pong ball to bounce their way. They had the number 11 worst record.
They got the All-Star game taken away, so they got the #1 pick.
They had the number 11 pick. That's what they had. They had the number 11 pick. That's what they had. Number 11.
Yeah.
That was it. It's not like they were the worst team in the league and bottomed out. They had the number 11 pick, and they got the lucky bounce of the ping pong ball.
But
they would have been a better team. Maybe they would have bottomed out the year before and got Celebrini. Who knows?
I was just saying, do you think that would you look at it as, we're happier that we got, the Schaefer selection?
Okay. The team is worse off now than it was back then.
Correct.
And you have Schaefer on it. So I'd say that's what I thought they should have done. You could have come in.
Okay, without the stupid decisions of Darsh, though, you would have to say that the future would look better now than it probably would have looked back then.
But your team would have been better all
along. I mean, you don't 100% know that, but
if you did your rebuild years before, yes,
they should theoretically be better off. But that's not saying that it's always guaranteed.
No, nothing's guaranteed in this world. But you know what? If you would have started rebuilding, you wouldn't have had the team run down into the ground with just a bunch of old guys on there. You would have had a young core growing up together.
True.
Because the Islanders, they've never won anything. So I without a doubt, I say this team has been a failure. They've never won anything. Never won a Stanley Cup, never won a conference, never won a division title. The only time that they got to the Eastern Conference Finals is because they didn't have to play Carolina. If they didn't run it, Carolina wasn't making the playoffs how many years ago? 5-6 years ago. They weren't making the playoffs. They rebuilt their team from a Stanley Cup champion in 2013, whatever the heck year it was. They won a Stanley Cup. Then they went down. They had to come back up, and they're a perennial contender. They know what they're doing down there. They just do, except for the goaltender. They don't know that.
Yep.
To me, I'd sell the house and get Sorokin if I was them. Rick Collane says, how could you be so down on Darsh already? His hands were tied by loose bad contracts. Oh, my God. No ray of sunshine when it comes to this franchise either, but I don't believe he's as bad as you think. Okay.
The Romanov signing was terrible.
Okay. Romanov was a disastrous signing, a reactionary move after losing Noah Dobson.
Yep.
Romanov himself came out and said he and his team never thought he would get that much money or that much term.
Which means you overpaid for him.
Wildly overpaid in money and in term. He signs Jonathan Drouin. Okay, that's a throwaway deal. They felt by the end they had to get rid of Drouin because he was a bust. Okay, so you trade him as well as a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and a burgeoning goaltending in Gilloff and get Braden Shen. What do? Does that save you money? Is that nope? Because you just added 2 more years at $6.5 million per plus this year. For Jonathan Drouin would have been off the books at $4 million after next year. You traded for Andrei Palat, $6 million, and your cap hit. That's next year too. You can blame Lamoriello all you do. I have.
You re-signed Peugeot.
Re-signing Peugeot.
Another one.
Re-signing Kyle Palmieri. Re-signing guys who are 34, 35 years old to extensions and giving them no pay clause.
And in a couple of months, it's going to be re-signing Lee.
Yeah.
So just get ready for that. That's why I don't think it's not. I mean, these are all decisions that Darsh is making. Lou's gone. Everything is on him now. These failures that are occurring now, these are all on Darsh. None of them are on Lou.
is there any move that you could say Darsh really did well on that move?
The only thing, and because literally anybody could do it, was the selection of Matthew Schaefer and bringing in the goalie coach for Sorokin. I'll say that was a positive. Those are the two positives that he's had his tenure with the Islanders. That's it.
And you could say, well, they also drafted
Victor Eklund. Yes.
Eklund and Aitchison. Okay, but
he really didn't want to do that, though.
He did not want to do that. He wanted to move those 2 picks to get James Higgins. That's the guy he really wanted, was James Higgins.
Right.
There was even discussion he was going to draft James Higgins at number 1.
If he had done that, honestly, he should have been run out of Long Island. If he did that, run him out.
I mean, like I said, I don't watch a lot of these kids and juniors until draft time comes up. I saw Schaefer and a few I'm like, holy crap, this kid's the best. And I've been effusive. I called him freaking Bobby Orr Jr. already.
You did.
Right? Just the way he skates and the way he dominates play. He reminds me of Bobby Orr.
Yep.
I'm not saying he is Bobby Orr, but that's weird. You know something? If he played back in the day, he would have been Bobby Orr. The guys were playing with those old clunky skates and those wooden sticks. I mean, game's changed. Gungun says, Grumpy, if you're forced to outline what the Islanders can do next year to improve things, what would they be? Will the fan base eventually flee? Okay, well, that's going to be an off-season question. That's not a today question. Okay. Freedom Fund Adventure says, positive for Darsh, not overpaying, weak-ass Dobson, and a trade return, draft staff hires, AHL moves. He said the right things, but NHL level, no toughness, and went against what he said in younger and cheaper. I think the Dobson trade was bad. You should have got way more for him. Heineman sucks. He's a 4th liner. You should have got something that could have helped your team.
Now, Grumpy, how bad would it be if the Montreal Canadiens and Noah Dobson win the Stanley Cup?
Really bad.
Leaves.
Really bad. Really bad.
Oh my God, that'd be devastating. Freedom Fund Adventure.
That'd be really bad. Really bad.
Freedom Fund Adventure says harder to play against. Shen trade was last second and mass overpay. I now believe ownership is the problem in demanding playoffs, which I do 100% agree with. And being against fighting. Now I don't know about the fighting, but absolutely they're 100% all on board. They want to make the playoffs, and that's it. Only thing that makes sense. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Mario Vargas says, rumor has it that during the offseason, Darsh is going to hire the Force ghost of Jacques Lemaire and Pat Burns as assistant head coach to DeBoer. Well, hopefully so. I mean, don't you think, you think DeBoer, who's been, he's been a successful head coach, is going to let Matthew Darsh make selections on his coaching staff? No freaking way.
Yeah.
DeBoer has a lot of power. He got a 5-year, effective 5 years. I think Darsh got a 5-year deal. Maybe they're both on the same contract length.
Do you think that potentially DeBoer, well, I guess if it's the fact that he likes vets, that's not going to be a good thing, but
he
is going to play major influence on, what happens with the picks and
no,
what happens with trades now?
I think he can make suggestions. Darsh is the guy in charge. I don't know what their agreement was.
But maybe my thing is if Darsh knows nothing, right? And he's just essentially a puppet.
He's not a puppet. He's not a puppet.
Do you think he's making these decisions on his own?
Yeah, I do. I just don't think he knows what he's doing. He's in over his head, and he's just not good at the job. Remember, Tampa usually overpaid for bottom 6 guys in their glory years. Brisebois absolutely giving away first-round picks for Yanni Gord or Blake Coleman, or they did that numerous times. But what was something Brisebois really good at? He moved Sergachev, right? But he was able to bring in Gensel. He let Steven Stamkos walk. This guy won't even let JG Pageau walk
before it's too late.
They know what they're doing in Tampa. He ran McDonough out of town and want to bring him back. Brisebois knows what he's doing. He's a good GM, very good GM. Fleet Dream says, with all the leaders and veterans the Islanders have, couldn't lead out of a paper bag. I'm sick of hearing about this team has leaders. Well, that's what they've been trying to spin ever since the moves, right? Jake Kiriako says the current roster is next year's roster. Exactly, it is. Freedom Front Red says Staple, Friedman, Button, etc. said DeBoer likes big, tough teams and would not have come since he is the top coach on the market without assurance on his own roster, meaning getting rid of some guys. Okay, let's see what he does.
I hope happens. That's what I hope. And that's what I was saying, though, is do you think that he's going to have, more
He's going to have input
than Paul had about who's going to be on the team, maybe certain trades that they could potentially make, maybe something with some of the guys they draft.
They just don't have a whole lot to move right now. It's the problem. They keep on, every time they have an opportunity to get in a position where they can make moves, they want to trade in all their assets for pieces of trash like Braden Shen or Andre Palat or Carson Sousa, or just name any number of guys.
They could have gotten something for Lee, and now they're going to get nothing for him.
They get nothing for him. I think they sign it back. I think they'll sign it back. Greg Frost says the owners are more interested in marketing than winning or building. I can't support them. I think they want foot traffic in that area for the buildings that they own, the shopping centers that they have there. I think they're absolutely interested in that. Mm-hmm. I think they look at this as a business investment. That's what I think. Jay Kiriakis says Sun X, Toronto is to hockey what Texas is to football. Everyone wants to go there. Freedom Fund Ranch says Brady Tkachuk is going to force his way out of Ottawa this summer. 26 years of age, real captain. Anyone except my top guys are available. I will include washed up 30-year-olds, TJ and X to Ottawa.
Would you go after Brady Tkachuk?
How many years does Brady Tkachuk have left on his deal?
Give me a second.
I mean, because that's important. If he has like 4 or 5 years left, I don't know what he has left on.
He is at year 5 of 7.
Okay, so he's got 2 more years left. So they don't need to move him. They don't need to move him yet. And is he going to force his way out? I don't know.
If they're trying to move him, would you go after him at 26?
Yeah, I would. Absolutely.
I think he'd be a stud.
I'd move Bo Horvat for him.
And one of Freedom's favorites. He's a fighter.
He's a fighter. He's not afraid to mix it up.
That's right.
Who says, Sun X, you picked a real stinker of a season to follow the Islanders. Do you think you've just run a shoeless 20 miles?
No, it's unfortunate, but I mean, honestly, I was optimistic at the beginning of the season. I didn't think it was going to end as badly as it did, though. I didn't think that, the wheels would just come off right at the end. I thought they would have made the playoffs.
That's why they play the whole year.
No, I know. But I'm just saying I had hopes that they would make the playoffs. And I definitely had hopes going into like 2-3 weeks ago. And then, just disaster struck. So.
Well, the season will be over by the next time we meet here.
Sure.
The regular season will be over. So the Islanders will either make the playoffs or they won't.
Yes.
Charlie Milholland says we need the Blackhawks plan. Since 2022, they've had a minimum of 3 first-round picks every year they're loading up. They even did a rebuild on top of a rebuild, which was interesting. They moved Dylan Strome, which I didn't understand that, to be honest with you. I thought they should have kept him. But you can't argue they're a team on the rise for certain. Sometimes the first rebuild doesn't work. You got to hit the second one. Freedom Front Ranch says, TJ's a quitter. He abandoned us all to go be some rich doctor's wife. Oh, boy. Wow. Look at that. Slamming TJ. Frank from Empire State says, Horvat's a 30-goal scorer, missed 19 games, where he would have put up 45 to 50. Okay, he's never put up that many goals. And he only played – you want to know why he played that hard? I like Bo Horvat. He wanted to make the U.S. Olympic team, the Canadian Olympic team. That's what he wanted to do. He said so. That's why he needed to pick his game up, because he wanted to make the Olympic team. None of these guys have ever said they come here to win a Stanley Cup. Not one has ever said, I want to win a Stanley Cup. They always, well, gosh, I want to.
Selfish reasons.
I like living in the area. My kids go to school here.
It's not a far drive for my kids. They don't have to change school districts. He's
absolutely one of the country club guys. Absolutely. He signed a contract extension a week after 3 days after being here. He signed a contract extension. He knew nothing about it. He was about getting the biggest contract he could. Vancouver offered him 5.5. He said no. The Islanders offered him 8.5, and he just jumped on it. He didn't know if he was going to like the area. He had no idea. 3 days is not enough time to know if you're going to like an area or not. Charlie Milholland says Barzell for Frondell and the Hawks Panthers first round pick. Okay. And Anton Frondell's not getting moved. You can't get him for Barzell. You just can't. He's a real deal. He was number 3 in the draft, I believe. Pick number 3. Man, I'll tell you what, Sharks should have drafted him over Michael Misa. I'm just not impressed with Michael Misa. Freedom Front Red says, Grumpy, I don't believe ownership will allow a GM to retool. I think ownership agreed to it and then made demands like re-signing 44 Pajot and making trades for this year's playoffs because went against Darsh's comments. Then Darsh should, okay, then if you just want to be a puppet of ownership, what does that say about Matthew Darsh? He's a shitty GM, right? If you can't,
that's what my thoughts are. That's why I don't think anybody wanted to accept the job here.
That's possible too.
And then again, now we're looking at it from a different perspective, and it comes back to what I've thought. And I don't know if you agree with this, but what I've thought all along is it's ownership. Ownership's the problem.
If you can't sell your ideas to ownership, you don't deserve to be general manager. And
anyone
if
ownership's not interested in that, they're interested on instant profits. They don't care about that.
How much profit they're going to make if you're talking about 2 playoff games? You're talking about 2 playoff games.
How much revenue?
And then the possibility of not making the playoffs for another 3 or 4 years. That's what you're talking about. And then you know what's going to happen? They're not going to get any profits this year. And so they ruined it for next year too. That's where the GM can't be. The GM's job is not to be short-sighted and just do what ownership says. You can't just rubber stamp whatever ownership says. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
NHL postseason games generate massive revenue, with teams often earning $1.5 to over $3 million per home game in early rounds.
Okay, so they make $3 million. You know how you could have saved $3 million?
Later rounds, with some top-tier long runs contributing over $50 million in total tickets.
Okay, so let's say they make $3 million on their 2 home games because they would have got ass blasted, right? Let's say they make $3 million. Maybe you don't bring in Andre Palat, who's cost you 6 next year, this year and next year, or bring in a Braden Shen who's going to cost you 13 in the next 2 years. Well, that's what I'm talking about. A GM can't do that. If you want to bring in a Robert Thomas, that's one thing. Not bringing guys who are 34, 35 years old. Just stupid. Dumb. Fleet Dream says, okay, it doesn't matter. We're talking about Lou Lamoriello, written all over it. Big Islanders fan says, Sunnex, the pattern is there. They will sign him. Talking about Anders Lee.
I hope not.
Big Islander fans says, some will give Lee a contract. The Islanders do not sign him. I agree with that. Frank from Empire State says, Shen is great for Richie. Palat has got to go. Okay, I disagree. Shen's finished as a player. Freedom Front Adventure says, my list of guys to eject: Lee, Engvall, we forgot about him, Shen, Pellick, Mayfield, Pulak, Casey, McLean, who the heck is 16? I don't know. Palmieri, Varlamov, who the heck's 11? Palat, who's 43? You forgot this. What is Henneman's numbers? Henneman 16 because he needs to go.
Gatcombe is 16.
Oh, Gatcombe.
What's the numbers that you can figure out?
43, and Duclair is 11. 43, I think, is the only one I didn't get.
I don't see a 43 on here.
Okay. What's Henneman's number?
Henneman is 51.
Yeah, 51 is what it should have said, not 43. Opening to listen to anyone, not a top young guy. Big On says, remember, Engvall may be back on the books next year, so there goes another $3 million. I do not know what his buyout is. Yeah, he's signed every 3 years. He's got how many? 5 years at $3 million per. Ugh. That was disastrous re-signing by Lamoriello. Disastrous. Mario Vargas says, does that projected cap space include the money they have on LTIR? See, I don't think it does. because you're going to have to pay. I don't know. I didn't look at it close enough, but I just looked at the numbers real quick. I'm like, man, that doesn't look like it's adding up.
I just went based off of what they had on there.
Okay. Freedom Fundamental says, Grumpy, how many times did Son X train legs this week? I just getting off his couch probably. To lift snowmobiles off Wi-Fi Y. Train Dog Z to not drag Grumpy across the hot asphalt and train him on hockey language. 0, 0, 0, more 0. Ponyboy Curtis says, Grumpy, he had 1,000 people in the stands looking up. Okay, it was 1,000. Even worse. That's even worse.
Even worse than 100.
I thought it was 1,000 initially. I'm like, it's not possible to have 1,000. You know what? He's going to Toronto. Just sign it. Get ready now. Phil put out a little tweet on it.
I can pull it up.
Yeah, pull it up. Just pull it up, because I was talking with him, and when I was on the phone with him, he did the graphics, did the IA generation, and it's true. The more it happens, it was my idea. I admit it. I said, how would that drive Islander fans crazy? It'd put them over the edge. Get introduced by, there it is right here. The year is 2033. You're an Islanders fan, and you just watched the Maple Leafs general manager, John Tavares, announce the signing. What is your initial reaction? And he gave me credit, which deserved. And I thought the picture was good. And can't you just see that happening? Unbelievable, right? Mm-mm.
Honestly, do you think that the fans would storm the streets? The Islanders fans?
No, they'd hate Schaefer for the rest of his career. But you know what? They really have no one to blame but their own team.
So that's what I'm saying, though. Would you think that the fans would storm the streets and demand change from the ownership?
No, it's because it's easier to hate one player than hate the organization. Ponyboy Curtis says, personally, I'm really happy that DeBoer is here. I know that you guys probably think that means that we're going to piss away more assets and go all in. I didn't say that. I think he's a better coach than Patrick Waugh.
We're not upset with him being here. We're just wondering why it occurred when it did.
Yeah. He's definitely a better coach than Patrick Waugh. He's not a winner. You're not winning a Stanley Cup with him, but he'll make the team better. But just scraping in the – remember.
No coach is winning a Stanley Cup with their current roster.
The teams that DeBoer had were loaded with talent. It's easy to win when your teams are loaded with talent. It's easy to put in a structure where you can play a structured defensive system when you're loaded with offensive talent. When you don't have a whole lot of offensive talent, guess what it means? You're not going to score goals because you're playing defense all the time. Barry Trotz did it for years here. Barry Trotz was a good coach, but he didn't win a Stanley Cup until he went to a team that was loaded with offensive talent. And then it took him 5 years to wind up convince Ovechkin to subjugate his game a little bit. People forget that. It took him a while to get OV to do that. But they were loaded with talent. That's the only way you win like that. You have to be loaded with talent to play a defense style first. The game is different than it was 35, 40 years ago when the Devils ran, the trap, and the Red Wings ran the lock, whatever the heck. They all had their silly little names for their defensive style. Game has changed. Can't interfere with guys anymore. The game's just changed. ABC Hassan says, hey guys, long time since I posted, same old story, new coach, same cast of characters, nothing changed. Yeah, but DeBoer's a good coach. DeBoer's a good coach. I just don't know what it's going to do for the last 4 games this year. That's my whole thing. Like, okay, you wanted to go after him. Whatever, I don't care. I'm just surprised that it happened with 4 games left. That's all.
Big Islanders fan here says this did not happen overnight with DeBoer. Unless Waugh won the cup, he was not coming back.
That I agree with.
Yeah, very well could be the case. Yeah.
Ponyboy Curtis says, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really going to miss Patrick Waugh's facial expressions and passive-aggressive comments whenever Andrew Gross asked him a question. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You want to know who Patrick Waugh used to look like when he got mad? He used to look like George LaCour. Why don't you look up a little picture of George LaCour? He was on the Ren and Stimpy shows. Freedom Fund Adventure says, how do we know Darsh didn't interview anyone else? He said he didn't interview anyone else. That's what he said. He was the only guy I interviewed. It's a snap decision after the the Carolina game. There it is, George LaCour. That's him right there. It's Patrick Waugh without the beard last year. That's what he looked like. He's angry on the bench. Gets very angry.
You even come up with these things.
Jimmy Quattrochi says, and is also surprising that Darsh came from Tampa. You'd think he would have been more competent. If he was more competent, he would have got a job before the Islanders. He was just coffee boy, is all he was. And he played a hell of a game of pickleball. Don't forget that. A lot of pickleball courts on Long Island.
Tony Boy here says, I think Darcy Poo is going to make massive moves in the offseason. He's going to get some of the crusty veterans off the squad. I can guarantee it.
Well, you know what? If
that's the case, why did he sign crusty veterans?
Yeah,
veterans of the squad.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Yeah,
that you're gonna. It's even dumber. It's even dumber what he did in season.
I think he's going to double down on crusties.
He admitted the team was smoke and mirrors this year. He double and triples down on a team like that. Then he goes and sells everybody in the offseason when you don't make the playoffs. What does it tell you? He doesn't have a plan. He's flying by the seat of his pants all the time. That's what it says to me.
Correct. Feet in Front Adventure here says, I encourage all Islanders fans to write to ownership in the next week. Tell them you don't want desperate trades to maybe be eliminated from the playoffs on 2 games. Tell them you want fighters, hitters, and faster. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Honestly, that's a good idea. We need to message ownership.
Freedom Front says, Grumpy, please remember that Dobson rejected the trade to Columbus. He had no rights. You trade him anywhere you wanted to. He had no rights. There was not a no-trade clause for him. It was not. While the process was going and it progressed, he said Montreal only. He said Montreal or Columbus. I believe because their contract was the highest offer.
Here's the thing, though. The underlying thing and the thing that we need to discuss as to why Grumpy had mentioned this was the fact is he didn't want to be with the Islanders anymore. So it's not like, it's not like he didn't want to be. He wanted out.
If the Islanders would have offered him, I mean, he's not worth $11.5 million. If they would have given him that, he would have stayed.
Yes.
It wasn't worth that.
Yeah.
Okay. And when he said he didn't want to be here, you had to move him. But you know what? You do what's best for the team. You don't do what's best for the player there. Columbus was an option. I don't know. I mean, maybe at the end he said he wanted Montreal. I don't care. You're going where we tell you. He had no rights at that point. He had no rights. He didn't have a list of teams that you couldn't trade him to. He didn't have that. Brandon Gaines says, Grumpy, if everybody leaves to beat the traffic, does anyone actually beat the traffic? They do not. Tony Baker says, Grumpy, what if Darsh learns from his mistakes? This is his first year doing this. X, are you open to the idea of Darsh can change and be competent? Forget about Grumpy's influence. Okay, X, you take your answer first.
Based off of what he's shown, I don't think he's going to change. His track record doesn't show that he's going to change.
Okay, his track record is limited. I'm going to say, though, looking at the system he grew up in, which was Tampa, who were constantly trading players for draft picks to augment a roster, that's all he knew. He's never been part of a rebuild. He's never been part of a team that was lacking talent on the front end. So I don't know. Is it possible for him to change and be competent? Anything is possible. I just don't think it's probable.
It's not highly probable. I agree with that. If you want me, I don't think he's going to change. I don't think there's a shot in hell that he's changing. I think he's going to actually double down.
And
he's going to re-sign Lee, and he'll probably I don't know if he'll trade away the draft pick, but he'll definitely be open to offers for 35-year-olds for the draft pick. I think so. The number 1 pick. Definitely be open to it. Maybe you'll trade it for Stamkos. Maybe you'll do that.
Oh my God.
Be like, hey, he worked out in Tampa so well. He's got to have more life in him, right?
He was good in Nashville this year. Stamkos.
Yeah. That's probably what he'll do. Yeah. Trade away that number 1 pick for Stamkos. Oh my God. Anyway, Grumpy, anything you want to say before we hop off?
I want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens and even those who don't, from Son X and the Grumpy Old Man.
And I would thank everybody for coming out and listening as always. Love the interaction in the comments. hopefully we can make the playoffs. We'll find out next time, right?
Okay, X, do we make the playoffs, yes or no?
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no also.
It's very improbable. It's not probable that we'll make it. So
Improbable, correct.
Yep. All right. Thanks everybody for coming out and listening. As always, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Grumpy.
My pleasure.